Malik Moore finally pushing him out of bounds.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
High formation. They give it to the fullback. You called it. Touchdown Bears.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
Hand it off. Got the first down. And Moore still going. Smith still on his feet. Got a little help from his friends. Touchdown Bears.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
2nd and 10. All day to throw it. Well, not quite all day. Maybe one play. Doyle doing it on both ends. On both sides of the football. This will be from...
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Backside heat, fumble, got knocked loose, it's on the ground. Loose ball, a big hit by T.J. Franklin. And the Bears have the football. And McClain is lit.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. We're live at Panther Stadium. This will be the last time we're here for the football season. This is the next to the last week of the regular season, Texas high school football. Midway hosting Cedar Hill, a team where Joey McGuire used to roam the sidelines and won state championships. Now the assistant head coach at Baylor. Cedar Hill in the playoff chase, and Midway, this will be their next to the last game. They go to Mansfield next week against Lake Ridge. Jalen Peoples is one of the players on this Cedar Hill team. He was interested, or at least Baylor was recruiting him. He took Kansas. He committed to Kansas, decommitted. I'm not sure where he ends up, but he's a part of the Cedar Hill football team and a couple of others, as they always have. Cedar Hill, Duncanville, DeSoto in the same district with dozens. Almost sometimes it seems like dozens of players who have Division I capabilities and offers. Craig Smoak to my left, Paul Catalina even further to the left. Hayden, come on down here for 1 second. Armstrong Sims right now is not happy. He is furious with us. Here is what we brought today. I went by and got this done. Here is a cookie cake, and it weighs like 9 pounds, and it has the number 400. Craig, why is 400 on this cookie cake?
Yesterday was our 400th show.
400th show. Now, again, we're not going to celebrate. No, yeah, we are, like every 100 shows.
Yes, we are, yeah.
And what the hell is the reason to have something good to eat, right, Hayden? Right, dude? Okay, Hayden, you get the first bite. Armstrong will save one for you. Normally, Armstrong's the one that dives straight into the pizza and whatever else I bring to the studio. And he said, I'm not putting that up. I'm not putting up the graphic if I don't get a piece, until I get a piece.
Little did he know the decision he made 8 weeks ago that it would be better for him to produce in studio while we were here was going to cost him sweets.
Yeah, and that's the cookie cakes. That's from HEB. It's a grocery chain here in the Texas area and maybe throughout wherever you might be. All right, so tomorrow, Baylor in Texas. We're going to look at the history of the rivalry in a couple of different ways. The former linebacker, Darrell Luce, is an attorney now. He played in the 1974 game. And then also Brad Gable, who's going to be inducted into the B Association Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame tonight, along with many others. He is going to be a part of the show at around 5:30. We'll break down the game X's and O's with Sam Bradshaw at 5. Also hear from Grayson Grunhafer on what is one heck of a list of visitors for the recruiting weekend in Waco. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak. We're going to go over our picks for the Big 12. We'll do that as well. The chat room's going crazy. A lot of you saying thank you, congratulations. We would not be here without Colt Barber, Brian Etheridge, Ashley Hodge, our great sponsors, and those of you a part of the text and or a part of the chat room as well. All right, Craig, you were a part of a radio station cut in Austin. I was a part of 2 or 3 podcasts as well. One of them was released today. What did you get the feeling from, if they said when you were talking on the shows, what the Texas media thinks of this game, if anything?
I haven't talked to a lot of guys, but the ones that I did talk to, Bucky and Aaron down in Austin, they didn't really give much of their own feedback. But But it seems to me like they do have a respect for Baylor. I think that they can acknowledge without, just letting homerism cloud your head. I mean, I think, Baylor fans can acknowledge and Baylor media can acknowledge that Texas is a good team, and I think they're better than their record indicates. And the Austin media, from who I've talked to, I mean, they look at Baylor at 6-1. They see they beat Iowa State. Their only loss to Oklahoma State. And just watching them, I mean, you have to give them their credit. And so I think that they know that they're playing a really good team tomorrow. I think that they know that Baylor's probably the favorite. And I think that they know that, Texas is going to have to play a really good all-around game. And I think there's a little bit of a lack of confidence there. But I think when it's Texas, kind of like you always give them the benefit of the doubt in a big game, there's always going to be that thought of like, well, yeah, Baylor's really good and Texas hasn't looked as good. But it's still Texas, and you know what I mean? Like
they'll just flip the switch.
Like there'll be a switch flipped, and you know what? That could happen. Like that could happen if Baylor doesn't play well. So I think that for them to wrap it up, it's a respect for Baylor and a belief that Baylor could very well win that game tomorrow. But maybe Texas flips that switch. That's kind of the sense that I get. And then Texas needs to flip that switch because they can ill afford to go to 4-4. And they've still got to play Iowa State, among others. So, they got to be careful as far as this first year under Sarkisian.
Yeah, lose tomorrow, they're done. Baylor loses tomorrow, there's still some hope left. But if Texas lose, they would need help. You lose control of your own destiny. Here's another thing, Paul. The reason why sometimes we do that with UT is because that's who they are.
Yeah.
They will go and rise up to the occasion of a big game or a big conference game on the road or a big non-conference game, and then they'll shoot themselves in the foot. And it's kind of like we remember those as much as we remember that they got drilled by Arkansas earlier in the year.
Yeah, and well, Texas has an uncanny knack for just when you think they're done of rising from the grave and beating you. And they and Baylor have had 2 weeks to think about this and get ready for it in whatever regard they choose to. And it's an interesting matchup because Baylor hasn't played an offense like Texas, but I don't think Texas has played or matches up well against an offense like Baylor's that kind of runs right at you. And, so it's one of those things like what's the thing that's going to pop that's going to swing the game one way or the other. And I don't know what that is because – you would think that Baylor's defense is a little bit better, but again, they haven't played a Bijan Robinson. I mean, they played Breece Hall, but I mean, they haven't played
Jalen
Warren.
Yeah,
they've gone against.
But they're not Bijan. I mean, let's be real. Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this: what's your top 5 about today?
It's top 5 coaches as Adam Sandler characters because Jack McKenzie spat in his face yesterday.
Okay, I'd like to do this today, and if you're on the chat, which we appreciate you, and I'm going to read some of that here early. We have a guest at 3:45. If you're on text, we'd love to hear that as well. What was your favorite candy on Halloween night? Mine were the little tiny Hershey bars, whether it was there's all sorts of types, but I always liked the one that was chocolate, but then they had even some that was dark chocolate. That was the ones I always liked. What was yours, Paul? One. Just one.
Well, I'm seeing is the last time I celebrated Halloween, I was 9. Probably M&M's.
All right, M&M's. M&M's. Craig, do you remember? Was yours Reese's?
I mean, I like a lot of different things, but I'll just go Reese's Cups. Yeah, those are always good.
Hayden, what was yours? Dots. Oh, the dots.
Dots are good.
Don't you get those at the movie theater as well? Dots.
Yeah.
All right, and a lot of
stuck in your teeth, pretty good too.
Yeah, they absolutely do. John Kelly, way to go! 365 Sports 400. Thank you, and Blake, congratulations. Biscuits and gravy 100. That'd be neat to get biscuits and gravy in your Halloween bag, right, and just be all over the place.
Like Baker Mayfield's nachos.
Yeah. Here's from S. Michael DeHart. Reese's Cup, no contest. Mikey Noss, addicted to Reese's Cups. Miles Thurman, dots. Also, let's see, Scotty B.
The last time I had those was in a movie theater, like 5 years ago, probably.
I think those sit on the counter for like Twinkies. They're on there for like hundreds of years. Also from Miles Thurman, GTFO with dots. Scotty B, my favorite candy growing up was the Reese's Cups.
Here's the thing about dots in the movie theater. I would venture to guess that it's like one of those things where you walk in and there's Reese's and Nestle's Crunch and M&M's and all these different things there. And then once every like 6 months, somebody goes, you know what? Dots.
Yeah.
And the people are like, what?
Yeah.
I've definitely gotten some stale ones at a theater before. Like they also have like who's ordering snow caps at the movie theater, like random stuff like that as well. Yeah. I'll tell you what, the Reese's Sticks, those are, if anybody hasn't had those are pretty good. They're not exactly like the Cups, but same idea. It's like Twix, or no, I wouldn't say like Twix, but it's like a crunchy candy bar. This Reese's pretty good. Reese's Sticks. If you haven't tried them.
From Jacob Saeed, on the chat room, candy corn. Now there's a controversy.
Come on.
There's a lot of people that either love candy corn or they don't. Mike Leach said the best way. Here's how you eat candy corn: open up the bag, pour it in the trash can, and grab yourself like a Reese's cup or something like that. So appreciate some of your feedback. We'll get to that as much as we can throughout the show today. All right, let's do this today. Let's get, and we'll give our predictions. And there really haven't been too many games in the Big 12 where we've had to really kind of go, oh. But we're going to give our predictions of the Big 12 games here coming up, and then also get yours as well on the chat room, or also as well on the text line at 254-339-1122. Jeff Howe will join us. He covers UT for Horns247.com. Also on the Horn, I think it is, down in Austin as well. Where, Craig, I think that was a station that you might have been on, in fact, yesterday. All right, here we go. Let's start with Iowa State, West Virginia.
Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State.
Yeah.
I say Iowa State. Texas Tech at Oklahoma with a coaching change. Interim coach.
Oklahoma.
2:30.
Yeah, I'm going Oklahoma here.
2:30 Central will take Oklahoma. I'm
interested to see what Sonny Cumbie does as far as just the look of Texas Tech, but I don't have a lot of optimism. But you never know. I mean, OU's defense hasn't been playing well. Even kind of everything was a little bit shaky last weekend against Kansas. So I'm expecting them to have like some really focused bounce back effort, knowing they didn't play well last week, and that Tech is kind of rallying now to try to just save the season in kind of a way with their head coach being fired. So that could get interesting if Oklahoma doesn't play well, but I'll take OU.
All right, I will too. This is one of intrigue here. One of these two teams is Kansas State had the nice comeback win against Texas Tech. We know where TCU is. They need a win badly. TCU at Kansas State in Manhattan.
I'm taking K-State. I'm not as confident in this game as I am in some others. I'm more confident in Oklahoma, and I'm more confident in Iowa State over West Virginia. Going back to that game, I mean, that's one where I don't really look and see any way where West Virginia is going to, make that fun or competitive. That game in particular, it's very interesting in Fort Worth right now. If they go and lose this game, I mean, they're sitting there flirting with 500. You look at their schedule, they might not be making a bowl game. And I don't think that'll get Gary Patterson fired, but it's going to, just turn that heat up a little bit more. So very interesting week there with a lot of fan outcry, and also, just some people kind of, seeing through this whole Patterson, kind of personality. For the first time, it feels like everybody's kind of going, what? That stuff he's always done is kind of like messed up. That's not, so it's weird right now. A win would make that, kind of quiet down, but I'll take K-State at home.
I'll take Kansas State, and I think I don't think that Gary Patterson's getting fired this year, but no. I do think that he's going to be one of those guys who goes.
You think he'll ever get fired, or you think?
I think he could.
Yeah, I do. And here's why I think so. I think he's the kind of guy that the minute that you have to, an athletic director has to make that decision because he's pissed off a booster or so, that he'll be like, no, I'm not. I'll get him out, because it's not like his personality is all that warm, So it's not like you feel bad for a nice guy who's not winning. Like Matt, I'm sure it probably killed Kirby Hocutt to fire Matt Wells, because he's a really nice person. He's a really nice guy.
Didn't kill him too much. He did it with a 5-2 record.
But even so, as far as that, I'm sure he's sitting at home going, man, that's the nicest guy I've ever fired before.
You know what that says about that? That he knew that was something they had to do for a 5-2 record. Again, they knew that they were struggling, but he didn't see, even with the record, they knew it was kind of almost like cosmetic.
It was a mirage. Yeah, I mean, they had barely beaten SF. I mean, look at who they played. Look how they got to 5-2. It wasn't like they were beating really good teams. I mean, the Houston game, okay, that's one thing. Houston, that's actually a pretty good win, but they eked out one against SFA.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect, but that's two entirely different levels of football. Business barely, edging out SFA. So it just, again, I go back to the question: what was their identity?
They didn't have one.
They didn't have one. You couldn't even name a star player, really, because they had just a bunch of pretty good players, but nobody was even a star anymore. It's just, there's no juice there. There's zero juice in Lubbock with Matt Wells. So, I'm sure Kobe Hocutt, I'm sure that bothered him. It bothered him much as Chris Del Conte, since he's apparently already closing in on a hire, and it hadn't even been a week since he fired Matt Wells. Yeah. So it didn't bother him that much, because they seem pretty revved up and ready to go based on all the the talk right now.
But I do think I think Gary Patterson is going to be that guy who enters the year in trouble. And if he doesn't make strides, because again, like we said, attendance is bad and it's never been great, but it's even worse.
Yeah.
They're average. The stuff that he's supposed to be good at, they're not good at. And every week is a different, some sort of conspiracy theory. Like he's the QAnon of coaches about, this is against me and this is against me. And why are these people writing this stuff when good coaches, guys who are successful year in and year out and don't, wander into mediocrity, don't care about that stuff. They don't care. Plus, I think NIL is going to really cost Gary Patterson because he doesn't understand it. He craps on it, and he's going to piss off a big-time player one day who's going to get, a good deal from Fuzzy's Taco Shop or something like that. So I think Kansas State wins because I think Gary Patterson is starting to lose his grip.
All right. I'm going to take TCU to win that game because of everything you guys said. I think they have a couple more in them. So I'll take TCU in Manhattan.
He strikes me as the type of guy who get himself fired, by the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, you asked that question. I think he's the type of guy that will, lose another game or something and then, I dare you to fire me. Like, he's that type of a dude. He's that type of a guy to go, lose it for a second and say, like, if you think change is better around here, he just strikes me that way based on, the way I've seen him talk before, especially when things aren't all rosy, and they certainly aren't rosy right now. But I'm with you in that TCU can win this game. I don't think that's a given that K-State wins this game by any means. So, yeah, they need to. Both teams really need to, quite frankly. And this will kind of be a game where it separates the middle from the bottom of the Big 12.
And Kansas plays at Oklahoma State. They're getting a little bit better. Again, they played Oklahoma well, or was OU sleepwalking? Who knows? But Oklahoma State coming off the loss to Iowa State, you would think they'd want to go in there and kind of grind them into some dust.
Pokes in that one because, again, they're not going to – the thing they might try just because it's Kansas and they might have some matchups, but I doubt they're going to try to change much and say, hey, let's see if we can make Spencer Sanders into this prolific passer. They're just going to probably run right at him most of the game.
I got a question.
Yeah, it's not going to be a close game, I don't think. I think it'll be kind of just what the Cowboys want to do. Do they want to make it just a anaconda squeeze of a game and kind of just, grind it out in low scoring? I don't see how Kansas scores very much in this game. So, yeah, definitely Oklahoma State.
By the way, there's that story out about yet another trying to, the Conference USA have reached out to Liberty and even Sam Houston State, I think New Mexico State among some others. Sam Houston State right now, they've already moved into a different conference. They've already, or at least that's happening, right, with some of the Southland Conference. That's interesting that they are the ones being selected, but they're good. They're number one in the country. We'll see what that does. Twix is one we just got as far as the Halloween candy from Jay. Come on, Twix is the bomb.
Yeah.
Twix. Twizzlers are underrated. My favorite was a giant Hershey bar. I like the miniature Hershey bars.
Here's the thing about Twizzlers.
I like Three Musketeers, the mini Three Musketeers.
I don't think Twizzlers are underrated or overrated. I think they're properly rated. I think they're rated.
Where?
Twizzlers. I think they're they're exactly what.
But you have to get them in a package, right? That's one. I mean, most everything's in a package or a box, but those are that's a large.
I'll tell you right now, one of the most disappointing candies you can get is like that little mini Twizzlers. It's like this.
I didn't know they had any.
Yeah, they have them. It's a Halloween thing.
Oh, okay.
Or like one of those office candy grab.
I like Twizzlers just fine, but it's not something I'm going to buy. Yeah. It's going to be in my trick-or-treat bag or so, in my stocking or something. That's the only way I'm probably eating Twizzlers. I like them. They're not like I'm in the grocery store or the convenience store and I'm like Reese's and Twizzlers. Like I've never done that.
I'm more of a Red Vines guy when it comes to that stuff.
Okay. Joey Kelly.
You kind of, there is one note on realignment. I mean, Marshall's joining Conference USA, and that's that's another shoe that's dropping here. And Conference USA.
And James Madison is involved in that too, right?
Yeah, Marshall's joining, I said Conference USA. They're leaving Conference USA and going to the Sun Belt along with Old Dominion and Southern Miss. And it looks like, yes, James Madison will be on the move. And I don't know, UConn's rumored to, I saw something about them, being one of the teams to go to this conference. And that seems like, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of. But, yeah, Marshall's on their way to the Sun Belt, it looks like.
We're going to have to one day, maybe at some point, look at all the teams who have changed, at least, or are going to be changing based on the decisions or at least the announcements. Also, from John Kelly, I'd rather have biscuits and gravy and sausage, sausage, and gravy than candy. There was one other, someone said, thank God nobody said Butterfinger.
Why not?
Yeah,
I never ever have finished even a mini Butterfinger. I've never been one like Reese's has got that like peanut butter in it, whatever. I've never been a peanut butter. Maybe Snickers have
Butterfinger's not peanut butter really. Yeah, it's more of a, what do you even call it?
Like a
toffee crunch kind of thing.
Yeah, so
it's not peanut butter really, but yeah, Butterfinger. That Homer Simpson made me want to try that when I was a young kid. He made it look cool, and then I ate it, and it was not my favorite. I don't know. It's just a weird crunchy texture. Yeah, it is kind of hard to finish a full Butterfinger. It is.
You know, the only time I've liked Butterfinger is when it's like on, so like when it's crushed up and it's on something like a cake, like a cupcake or something. Otherwise, it's not really.
From Blake, it depends on Iowa State. Depends on if they get the Purdy Brocktober.
Well, yeah.
Who is if he's in full effect. Miles Thurman gave us $4 for the 400 show. Miles, thank you. Super chat.
Thank you, Miles. I mean, yeah, you know, this whole Brocktober thing. Well, October's almost over. So they've made their move, and I would say it's kind of funny. I was looking at some power rankings in the Big 12, just like looking over various articles and just doing my research and stuff. And like the number of times I feel like I saw Iowa State above Baylor, and like I get that if you think they're playing better, but they lost that game. So like even if you think they're better right now in terms of a power ranking, I guess you just take the records out of it and you list your best teams if that's the way you do it. But if you're doing it, it's more of a mix of like who can legitimately still be a part of this and is the best team. You can't have Iowa State over Baylor right now because Baylor won that head-to-head, but they are, my point being, that they are the team that I think a lot of people are starting to look at that is getting hot, and you're going, okay, that could be the team there. They still get to play Oklahoma. They still get to play Texas. They still, you know, they got the win over Oklahoma State. That's the one to watch, I think, in the Big 12 right now for a lot of people is the Cyclones.
Raymond from Waco. Whatchamacallit. Those were good. From Steven and Kit Kat or Reese's.
Whatchamacallit, yeah.
Yeah, also from the 817. Speaking of Texas Tech, is there any chance Tech will hire Art Briles? And I know that's a name that's out there. But
I don't know, like the validity of, I mean, I know who certain Tech reporters are, and then, you know, there's a lot of them that I don't know anymore because they're just, you know, new people that come in and out or whatever. But I saw some dude earlier, whose name I can't find now, who was reporting that Tech was, you know, narrowing in on a deal. He was being all, the one thing I hate about this is like, I know something you don't know. So I'm going to say Tech's close to hiring their head coach, but then I'm not going to tell you who it is. Like that's so stupid. And it's such an attention grab, but apparently they're close. And I couldn't tell from his very vague, I know something you don't know tweet that it's either Trailer or Cumbie or Dykes, excuse me. I don't think there's been much smoke other than just the usual wave of supporters for Art Briles, and then just, you know, the Tech fans who just don't care. They just want to win, and it doesn't matter, you know, who else's candidates or whatever. They think that he's the guy, and so there is a vocal, you know, group of people who think he'd be good for the job. But I don't know. To me, it's Trailer, and then it's Dykes. I mean, just based on everything I've read, that's sure as heck what it seems like. Now, if those two were to both say no somehow, then maybe we start talking about that being realistic.
If SMU, and we had Rick Hart, their AD, and in fact, they are on Chapter 2 on the radar and will be a part of Chapter 2 unless things just get delayed. If they're going to do that, they have to retain Sonny Dykes, right?
Yeah,
isn't that one of the moves?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I know Tech is right now in the Big 12, has been a long, long time, former Southwood, all that. But if SMU knows that they're going to be a part of a Chapter 2, isn't one of the things they must do is retain Sonny Dykes?
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason that Jeff Traylor is probably the number one candidate over Sonny Dykes, in that you don't have to worry about first of all, if you're Texas Tech, the school that you stole the coach from, coming out and beating you in conference because they're mad about it, but not that that's a bigger factor. But there's probably some complicated stuff going on with Sonny Dykes because he does have this trump card in there saying, like, if they're going to be part of the Big 12 in 3 or 4 years, then, why don't you just
maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like if you're in a couple of years, if you're in that conference, don't you want somebody consistently to help build the recruiting towards that conference and not change horses in midstream? I can do that for you. Let's buck up the money. And SMU, believe me, where they are, they've got money. They can pay Sonny Dykes what they believe he's worth. And then Jeff Traylor, again, the kind of guy that Tech needs, though, and no knock on Sonny Dykes, I think he'd be fantastic at Tech as well. But I think it is Jeff Traylor, is a younger coach who's up and coming, who has an identity, who has a program, who knows every high school coach in the state of Texas and all these. I mean, that's what Tech needs. That's what they need to help build their identity. That's why Briles was such a good hire at Baylor, because he was a guy who knew every high school coach and could go in and get players and really talk to them on that level. That's what Tech really needs right now.
I think Dykes is in a good spot in Dallas. You know, they're going to be in the Big 12 sooner rather than later, most likely. And, you know, if he can afford to wait another 2 or 3 years, I mean, that's the thing, though, is like, yeah, SMU might join the Big 12, but how long? I mean, if we're talking 3 or 4 years, I mean, yeah, that's great. You're joining the Big 12. That's still 3 or 4 years away, though. You know, like that's a long time. So that to me is the only sort of hesitance I have. If they were potentially joining in like a couple of years, I would say, why in the world would you leave Dallas? There'd be no point in it. I mean, there'd be no point. But the fact that it's maybe a little bit of a longer wait, I could see.
Well, you have to tie in. His father was there, a long time ago and did pretty well.
No, I'm talking from a winning perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, why leave what you have right now? You have a really good thing going where you pick up a good number of transfers, especially like a Tanner Mordecai or whoever. You're one of those schools right now that can feast off that transfer portal, some of the high-profile guys. You're in a conference where you're one of the most talented year in and year out. You're in one of the better markets. I mean, you got a lot going for you.
You're in a recruiting. You're not going to out-recruit Alabama and Dallas, but you can
out-recruit Texas Tech.
There are plenty of people in the city of Dallas, players, student athletes, 3, 5, 4-star, whatever. You could do that. If you did it before, now you can do it with the NIL. You can do it now.
What's Texas Tech's lifeblood? Dallas. So I mean, so you're just gonna go further from Dallas to come get the same players that you could just get 10 minutes away. And the thing is one of the trump cards that a Texas Tech or a Baylor or whoever could always have over in SMU is, or in the Big 12. Well, if that's not on the table anymore, then what? I'm gonna go here because they have a bigger fan base. I mean, is that so? I mean, yeah, I think SMU can compete to a certain extent. But Dykes, because of the pull of the family ties and the fact that Tech could probably throw a bit more money at him, and the fact that there is, I guess, probably definitely more support overall. I mean, maybe that is enticing, but I think point being, he's got a good thing going in Dallas. If he decided to just stay there, I would not blame him one iota. Not one.
All right, some more of the chat. We will take a break here because we need to. We have a guest coming up, Grayson Grunhafer, on the weekend for recruiting for Baylor, coming in for the Texas weekend. Mitchell Jackson was saying, hey, Don Williams, one of the good so we've had Don Williams from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal. We've had him on. We've had the Chris Levels. We've had others, Carlos Silva, on earlier on the day all this went down. So, yeah, we're monitoring, and we have our own people.
Well, what did Don Williams say?
They were just a chatter of who might be. Don Williams, the last thing that Don Williams put up on his Twitter feed is that he doesn't have a specific name. He said, per multiple sources, no contract extension. Well, actually, I'm sorry. This is from Joseph Hoyt from Dallas Morning News on Sonny Dykes. Per multiple sources, no contract extension signed between Dykes and SMU yet, but it's not something I'd rule out in the future. Again, that was a story. We even saw that in the premium section from a guy that's pretty good, pretty tight end, but yet nothing at least has been made official with that. Let's see. Now, here's one of the stories I'd like to know how this is the punishment. University of South Florida fined $10,000, placed on 3 years probation for NCAA violations committed by the football and women's basketball programs. This is after an 18-month investigation. Level 2 violations occurred. The Bulls football program under Charlie Strong, who's now with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and women's basketball under longtime head coach Jose Fernandez. Self-reported violations. In football and women's basketball, non-coaching staff members were found to have participated impermissibly during practice and off-field activities. Women's coaching staff failed to accurately record and report countable athletic-related activities to school compliance. So, okay, the football team loses 2 scholarships next year. The school's fined. That's nothing. 3 years probation, which means they're just kind of like being on parole, right? Charlie Strong apparently also was noted for not keeping up enough with what was going on. You know what his deal is? He got a 1-game suspension if he comes back to college football. The school gets 3 years probation, $10,000, and that's, again, they're the ship, right? Mm-hmm. But he gets a 1-game deal.
That's kind of weird. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, why even give him 1 year? Yeah,
what do you mean? Like,
well, I mean,
why even 1 game or 1 year?
If he was the one under the direction of what was going on, he gets a 1-game suspension. What did Art Briles get? Nothing because of technicalities, right? Yeah. And Charlie Strong.
Well, as some people, he did absolutely nothing wrong. They just didn't read any report, but whatever.
So,
I mean, I know what you're saying. But Art's situation and that thing and Charlie Strong, I mean, that's kind of different. That's far more under the purview of the NCAA.
These are the little NCAA infractions, not little.
That's what they do, though.
That's exactly right.
They don't do the stuff that we're talking about with Baylor. That's like, to me, the very clear difference is they don't dabble in the legal side of things. They try to pretend like they have that authority. They actually have absolutely zero, which is why for 3 years before their decision on Baylor, people were screaming like, you don't have jurisdiction over this. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to overstep and get sued like you did against?
Well, the NCAA never said they did either. That's the
no, they didn't.
Fan bases were
right,
doing that.
But it was like they don't have that control. So in this situation, like, yeah, they couldn't do as much to Art Briles, but under Charlie Strong, and if your women's teams aren't recording or reporting, and your football team's not, like, yeah, that's NCAA rules. So to me, that's kind of more clear cut than the other stuff.
Sounds like a slap on the wrist to me. That's according to
it is that
Mitchell.
Too, yeah.
Also, so there's a little bit of that.
I mean, I'm sure he will come back to college football at some point. I don't think that whole Jacksonville gig is going to work out in the long haul.
Yeah.
So he'll come back for whoever at some point, whenever, and serve that 1-game suspension and be right back, to work. When
we come back, we'll continue this discussion and more from you on the text line, and also we'll take more of your chat room discussion at 345 Grayson Grunhafer. 254-339-1122 is the chat. So those are a couple of the stories as well in college football. Big moment last night for former Baylor defensive back Henry Block. We'll get to that as well. And what an honor for Baylor President Linda Livingstone. That today and more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Discover Woodway. They have on November the 17th concerts at the Arboretum. The next one is Jake Hoot and the Sundance Head. Jake Hoot was a winner of The Voice. That's a pretty big deal. Coming to Waco, November 17th, 7 until 9:30. Tickets available by going to discoverwoodway.com. Also, tomorrow evening, actually, Cops and Kids Halloween drive-thru from 5 until 7 o'clock. That's tomorrow. Cops and Kids Halloween drive-thru from 5 until 7 at, again, in the city of Woodway at the Woodway Activity Park. 5 until 7, join the Public Safety Department, Woodway Family Center for fun trick-or-treat drive-thru. And, of course, whatever favorite candy you hope ends up in your bag. So the venues they have, the Whitehall Community Center, the Pavilion, Grandy Garden Terrace, Grandy Gazebo and Event Lawn, and much more. Jesse Reed is someone you can contact for more information as they continue to do what they do, which is come up with these concerts and, on top of that, special events for the youth as well. It's discoverwoodway.com.
The beautiful, rugged, elegant third-row seat Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock at Allen Samuels. This prestigious Jeep heritage is obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders, we're offering an extra $500 cash for you. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months going on now. Jeep Adventure Days at Allen Samuels, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey guys, sports betting season is in full force with football season entrenched and the NBA and NHL underway and the Major League Baseball playoffs. You need a sports book with integrity and longevity like BetUS.com. BetUS has been pioneers in the sportsbook industry for almost 3 decades, thriving and paying their loyal customer base. That's BetUS.com, and they have loads of bonuses like ours at BetUS.com. 125% bonus on promo code SICKM125 or a 200% bonus if you use crypto on promo code SICK'EM200. BetUS, known as America's favorite sportsbook. NFL, college football, MLB, UFC, PGA golf, they've got it all at betus.com. So go to betus.com today and use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200. That's betus.com, promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Grayson Grunhafer in the next segment. He will join us, but a couple of other stories. I'm watching the Packers and Cardinals. Packers, nice win. With all the injuries they have and players out, Aaron Rodgers was amazing. Too. Yep, the tight end ACL played with it, I think. And so Henry Black, part of that defense, right, in 2019, that said that they were missiles in the secondary. Deflected pass inside about the 25 or 30 of the Cardinals. Henry Black picks it off. First interception of his career, former Baylor defensive back. Packers go on and score, beat the Cardinals last night, 24-21. Congratulations to Henry Black. But the collision on the kick return, I have not seen anything about the defense, the kick returner and or Jonathan Jones of the Cardinals.
The kick returner's torn his ACL. He's out for the year, or has some kind. He's out. He's torn ligaments, and it was bad.
It looked Willis McGahee-like to me.
Yeah, the Jonathan Jones, was it, that hit him? He has movement in all his extremities, but he's in the protocol.
Did it look like he had just gone straight?
Oh yeah,
limp?
I mean, yeah. But I think sometimes you have those, like a full body stinger almost, where you hit like
almost like you jumped into an electric.
And then he was off the field with his give the thumbs up, which was good to see. But yeah, that was some kind of collision.
Yeah, it's surprising it doesn't happen more often than it does. And that was just really weird from the way his foot was planted and just got ran straight into. I mean, it couldn't have happened any worse than it did. I mean, it's the way that it looked. And to see somebody making a tackle like that and just going completely limp, it was double whammy of being kind of scary injury-wise there. So glad to know both guys, for the most part, are okay. But it does make you wonder, with kickoffs and their futures, there's been some of that conversation before, and they've tried to change the rules up to make those more safe. But, at the same time, I'm sure that type of play will spark that conversation once again about the dangers of two sides coming running full speed at each other on kickoffs. So
I saw somebody in the who was a part of the XFL tweet what they do on kick returns. And here's from David Cantor. He's an agent. Reminder to the fans that whine and bitch when a player switches teams for more money or players realize their collective power and finally fight for fully guaranteed money for every player. Never have two NFL team owners simultaneously been carted off the playing field.
Yeah.
Just, I printed it out. I thought it was kind of a unique perspective on that.
We do have this weird thing, and I don't want this to get in the chat of, in America where we stick up for billionaires over millionaires. Like
crazy, man.
Okay, and look, here's the deal. No matter what we do to for billionaires, they're going to be okay. And again, these are the sides you're taking. You're millionaires versus billionaires. So, maybe, I would just usually take the side of the person with the less money, but, that's right. And again, it's just a fight of rich people and richer people. And that's why you guaranteed money. It's in every other sport but football.
Yeah,
hockey has it.
It was interesting that was. I thought that was an interesting take. Here now, Division I Board of Directors announces their transformation committee roster. Now the NCAA is playing catch up, and they always probably will. But this is a group of presidents and athletic directors. I even think student athletes like Greg Sankey of the SEC is a co-chair of this thing. On this list, Dr. Linda Livingstone. Think about where Baylor was the day she walked in the door.
Yeah.
In the tumultuous parts of the dark cloud when she took that job as president, because Ken Starr, and we also know Ian and Coach Browse and others, she now is a part of numerous type of these committees and seems to kind of be a rising star. I know not everyone agrees with everything she's doing at Baylor. There's always going to be that give and take, but it seemed like she is becoming kind of involved in a lot of these heavy-duty committees.
Well, I think the timing is interesting because of some other things that are being talked about. I think you're right. Linda Livingstone has clearly garnered a lot of respect. I know there's other female presidents out there, but she seems to be becoming one of the more prominent female names as far as college athletics goes and being involved in a lot of these, groups, subgroups, committees, what have you. So I think that's good to see. But I also think at the same time, those dark clouds and all that needs to get kicked to the curb now. I think that Baylor fans have been, kind of still recovering, and really not just fans, but maybe media as well, and just the overall larger picture has still been recovering somewhat, despite an NCAA ruling coming in, and despite the third head coaching staff since that all happened, and despite the fact that there's I think maybe one or two players still on the roster that had anything to do with the old staff, and that would be Raleigh Tejada and maybe one other person. Jalen Petrie. And those guys didn't even end up playing, I don't think, for any of those guys. If they did, it was very brief. So, all that's changed. It's been 5-6 years now. I
agree, 100%.
All I'm saying
my point was she came in during that, and now she's a part of so many of these major committees.
I agree, but I just think they need to get to a point where it doesn't even matter what. It's not even you have to caveat. You know what I mean? It's you don't have to say that anymore or acknowledge that anymore. And it's just hey, she's just doing a good job. And I'm not directing it simply at you. I'm just saying that there's still this PTSD, you know what I mean? That fans have, and it's okay, now you can start to get over that. Enough has changed now. Enough time has passed. I know there will be wounds that never heal, especially for a very vocal group that's trying to get this guy hired somewhere else right now. But in general, it's time to freaking move on.
Yeah, and look, she's getting those jobs because she stepped into a situation and didn't ask, why, or she asked why not? Why can't we do this? Why can't this be better? Why can't that? And then that's what she does, how she approaches things. She stepped in the situation and, okay, what are the list of things that has to get done? She got them done. And, there's always going to be things, the university, system in America is hard to understand when you look at it and all the different problems they have. But with her individual job, what she had to do, it's no wonder people want her in, because you know what they want on these committees? They want problem solvers. That's why Condoleezza Rice gets jobs, because she's a problem solver.
Shane Lyons, the AD at West Virginia, also representing on this committee. from the Big 12. We got to.
What is their role now? What is?
It's the Transformation Committee charged with making recommendations to the board how to address Division I's most significant challenges and effectively meet the needs of current and future student athletes. It's the NIL, which maybe this should have been done 20 years ago. Who knows, or 10, but they're putting all this together.
Well, that's good for her.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. That's a big job, and obviously an important thing.
She's a part of that committee. She's part of she's a big part of the Big 12. Mac Rhodes is on the expansion committee, among others. Iowa State, Gene Taylor, and also Kirby Hocutt at Tech, among some others. We'll have a couple of notes about that expansion committee here a little bit later in the show. Coming up next, Grayson Grundhafer. He will discuss Baylor's recruiting weekend and much more. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. IdealMRI.com, our first sponsor that connected with me. First one, reached out to me on the website, Sikkim365.com in the premium section. Dr. Rob Maxey contacted me. I didn't know. I had endorsed their company before, and he wanted to be a part of what we did from day one on April the 6th of 2020. And 401 shows later, here we are. And their image, their graphic, and what they do is right on the back of what is, again, you could even see it on the YouTube screen, one of our title sponsors of this show. Thanks to Dr. Rob Maxey, Al LeBlanc, and the great staff, the Texan specialists of IdealMRI.com. Okay, what do? Save you money. What do? Find out what hurts, what is torn, what is shredded, what is whatever ripped. Maybe your shoulder, your knee, whoever it or whatever it might be, they're going to find it because they have a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. It is an alpha dog. I have been in it about 3 or 4 different times. It's $497 or less every single time. $497 or less every single time. They'll help you with the insurance to maybe even help it make it less than $497 or less. Average is $1,100. You do the math, it makes sense. IdealMRI.com is just around the corner from where we are at Panther Stadium, inside the Central Texas Marketplace. Give them a call. Contact them if you have or need an MRI. Tell your doctor about IdealMRI.com.
Favors for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $4,000 down, cash or trade. See dealer for details.
Hit the road and save on a reliable pre-owned vehicle from Richard Carr. Savings like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $211 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $288 a month. Plus, we pay top dollar for your trade. All pre-owned cars and trucks go through a 172-point inspection. With multiple lenders, we say yes when others say no. Hit the road and save at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to the water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of Sikkim365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Grayson Grundhafer, from really the beginning, since the off week, has been posting who would be at the Texas game, Baylor in Texas tomorrow, 11 o'clock, McLean Stadium. He joins us now live, our recruiting analyst for Sikkim365.com, and does the chat, the Bearcast with Craig Smoak on Tuesdays. It is an hour filled or more of Baylor everything. Grayson, if all of these people show up, there's going to be 24,000 people. I mean, there's going to be 59,000 in the stadium, right? I mean, this is a huge – is this the largest list you've ever seen or not?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I don't know if it's the largest, but it's definitely the best list. I mean, the quality of the guys that are on the the list for this week is really insane. And it just speaks to kind of what this staff has been doing over the last, year, I would say. I mean, they're just doing a great job. The 2022 class is already almost filled, but they're not settled. They're trying to go out and land a couple other guys in the 2022 class that are, higher end, try to take advantage of the fact that, they're 6-1 and continue to trend in the right direction. And then in the 2023 and 2024 classes, it's really all about just kind of making an impression, if that makes sense. You want guys to just show up on campus and have a great experience and then, go on with their recruitment and kind of remember the experience they had at Baylor. This weekend isn't about, pressuring kids to commit quickly like some other schools do. This weekend is really just about selling the brand of Baylor, selling the relationships, building on those relationships, and showing, just a great environment and something that I think everyone wants to be a part of, which is, a family atmosphere.
Grayson, who would you say of the 2022 guys that are here this weekend that they are, they have maybe a bit of a firmer grasp on?
Yeah, I mean, the one that I continue to mention, and we've talked about this guy quite a bit, and he's a Central Texas guy, which is Kamari Tyrell, the defensive back out of Colleen Shoemaker. He's kind of an athlete for Shoemaker in general, but he's being recruited as a cornerback. And Baylor really needs a cornerback in this 2022 class. They have Reggie Bush, but they want to get one more to kind of fill out that group a little bit. Just with what they'll probably lose after this season and just the fact that they're a little bit light at position currently. So Kamari Tyrell is kind of the guy that I have kind of circled as, Baylor should be able to find a way to land him. He just got his 247 ranking this week, which put him at an 89. He's a 90 on our website. So, he's right around that high 3-star, low 4-star type quality guy. And I mean, he's got great speed, that track speed along with length. I mean, just really a long defender, much like a Kalen Barnes, lengthwise. So yeah, a really, really fun prospect and one that, a lot of Baylor fans probably have gotten to know a lot because I've posted about him a ton. So he's probably the guy that I have the best grasp on as far as I think Baylor's in the best position with him. The others are a little bit of long shot.
Grayson, this is a pure hypothetical, but, there's a lot of talk right now about the Texas Tech job and, of course, the LSU, USC jobs, all of that. There's a chance, and I think we've all realized for a while now that Joey McGuire is eventually going to go and become a head coach somewhere, and it seems like this could potentially be an offseason where that occurs, or at least sometime in the near future. How much of a blow do you think that would be for this staff recruiting-wise, or is that something that, as good as he is, the connections in Dallas, that you think that they could maneuver around? And like I said, a big hypothetical.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Craig. And I believe, North Texas looks like it could come open. Texas State could absolutely come open as well. If Jeff Traylor leads UTSA, the UTSA job could come open again. So, yeah, you're right. A ton of moving parts in the state. And Joey McGuire, you have to figure, would be in the equation to some extent. I mean, he's definitely going to get a look from these programs if they do end up moving on from their coaches. Now, as far as the recruiting side of things, truthfully, I think Baylor would be able to find a way to make up for that. They kind of have things established now. In 2017 and really when Dave Aranda first got there, it was huge. Like, Joey was just so instrumental in all the recruiting process and, was just played a huge role in that with his connections and everything like that. And he still does. But I think right now, I would say this recruiting staff that they've put together has done an amazing job of kind of targeting the athletes that Baylor needs to be recruiting, and have done a good job organizing things to make it easier on the coaches, which I think makes the recruiting process much more efficient. And I think because of that, a loss on staff wouldn't be felt as bad as maybe it would have been a few years ago if Joey wasn't on staff. So I have a lot of confidence and faith in what Dave Aranda has built and what he's been able to kind of achieve on the recruiting side of things, that even if they were to lose as great of a coach and recruiter as Joey McGuire is, I think they would be able to find a way to move beyond that and continue to have a lot of success. And I mean, guys, truthfully, the goal for 2023 is to have a top 15 to top 25 class in the entire nation, which is something that Baylor hasn't had a lot of in their history.
There's a listener, Daniel Acton. He's an Allen High fan. He's on the show. He's been with us from day one. He asked about Jalen Jenkins, the diminutive running back out of Allen, who's putting up huge numbers at the 6A level. Is he even on their radar? Do you know? I don't know if he's a class of. I guess a senior. That's kind of too late for that, isn't it?
A little bit, and you also have to remember they already have their running back.
That's right.
Class with Richard Reese. So unfortunately, I think for this staff, the goal is to land a cornerback, and then specifically either probably a defensive lineman as well, and then you kind of move on to the other best available types. And I think they're going to save that for one of the other positions. I don't think running back's a priority, especially when you look at their roster. I mean, Tay McWilliams, Jordan Jenkins, Quaylen Jones, Jonah White. I mean, they have a lot of talent in that room.
This is a list that, how does this go? There's 50 names on here, it appears to me. How does this work? Do they have the entire section down there near the end zone in the tunnel where Baylor on the opposite side of where they come out? How does all this work, Grayson, as far as the details, the itinerary? It's got to be very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, you're not going to see a ton of recruits there, at 8 in the morning. I mean, it's more so you're showing up. They probably have a design time. I would think that it's around when the stadium opens. So I would probably assume like 9:30, something like that. You go in, obviously, you get your name tag and everything like that. That's the opportunity when you're able to talk to the coaches briefly, just because on these visits, you don't really get to talk to the coaches a ton, and it's usually only after the game or if you're there really early.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's really difficult just because obviously the coaches are preparing for a game day. So it's usually after that they get the most communication. But before, it's all about just kind of, again, putting on that family atmosphere. And I think having the commits there will be huge as well. Allow the commits in the prospects to talk to each other, get to know each other. And I'm sure they have all kinds of different Baylor things to do in there as far as information and also various talking points. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty informal, to be honest. It's not something where you're like sitting down looking at a bunch of presentations or anything. It's very much just go in. I think I don't know this for sure, but I think they serve some lunch in the recruiting lounge, and that's pretty much it. It's very, very much a game day experience, not so much a, we're trying to land you experience at this point. It's all about the game day environment.
Thank you, Grayson. Appreciate it. Craig?
Grayson, any thoughts on the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I have quite a few thoughts, but I'll keep them brief. I think the one thing that just stands out to me is I don't know how Texas is going to stop Baylor from running the football. And that's just something that I keep going back to, because we've seen Texas play Baylor a ton, and even when their team is not as good as Baylor, they compete really well. And you just kind of go in with this eerie feeling like, man, Texas is going to, they're going to flip a switch and whatnot. But, I mean, we're halfway through the season, and they're giving up over 200 yards rushing per game, 115th in the country in run defense. So my point of that is Baylor is going to be able to run the football. They're probably going to run for at least 250 on Texas, but we've seen them run for 300 plus on top 20 run defenses. So I think my thing is that if Baylor is able to run for 250 yards, I just don't see any way that Texas is going to win this football game. And at this point, I don't see Texas being able to keep Baylor from doing that. So I think the overall kind of my thought process is Texas is either going to have to force a bunch of turnovers, or they're going to have to hit on a bunch of deep shots, because I don't see them being able to methodically move the ball all the way down the field against Baylor consistently enough to keep up with the Bears' rushing attack. So I think the Bears are going to win this game, but I do expect it to be a good one. I expect Texas to give them a lot of fight. We know how talented they are, and we know that Steve Sarkisian, coming off a bye week, he's going to dial up some things to try to keep Baylor off balance and to try to get Texas a huge road win. And it's Baylor's job to keep them from doing that.
Thank you very much, Grayson. Appreciate your time. Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim365.com. Chris, there was a question about, and we have a break, and Darrell Luce, former Baylor linebacker from the 1974 Baylor Miracle and the Brazos win with Grant Taff, and that huge win that's a book written about it. UT San Antonio, Houston, SMU all stepping up their football programs. How much could that eventually hurt someone like Baylor in state recruiting? Yeah, well, I mean, they gives them a different story to tell. Now, you hope you're not going to lose too many to Houston or UT San Antonio or SMU, but you might. You might. When
as long as Dave Aranda keeps doing what he's doing, I'm not worried about it that much. Because their program's on a pretty good little, track right now. So if anything, those schools are going to be playing a little bit of catch up, and you hire the right guy, and that can happen really quickly. But I have no reason to believe that Aranda would be affected by the outside stuff as much. I think Baylor would be affected if Aranda left and they had to go find a new coach. But so long as he's in place, I'm not really worried about what anybody else does. I think Baylor will be fine.
When we come back, Darrell Luce was a part of that 1974 Baylor win against Texas. Texas and Baylor tomorrow, 11 o'clock. We'll hear from Brad Goebel being inducted into the B Association Hall of Fame in Baylor Athletics tonight at 5:30. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and maybe as you get older, used to be. Things change. Testosterone levels in your body can change. They can get lower. That's part of father time. Nothing you can do about it. Well, maybe there is. If, in fact, you have any of these symptoms of low testosterone, your sleep habits are not the same, your energy just doesn't seem to be the same, and you also have lost or you're having ED issues or even sex drive. PettyClinicalOT.com can get you lab work, look at your testosterone results, and if your testosterone levels are too low, they can put you in a program increasing your testosterone for you to be the high-performance man that you used to be, and maybe in fact, you want to be and need to be. It's PettyClinicalOT.com. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff, PettyClinicalOT.com.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sikkim Bears.
boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue. It's Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
A sagging rear end. It's ugly, it's embarrassing, and it's a sign you haven't been taking care of things. Hey, it's Jay from Pickup Outfitters, and we know you've seen it. A truck pulling an RV, a boat, or a big trailer, and the back end of the truck is lower than the front. In the industry, we call it a floppy jalopy, a scooty booty, or most commonly, badonkadonk down. It's not just an eyesore. When a truck's rear end is sagging, it can be dangerous because it affects the handling of the truck and can make driving unsafe. But there is a fix to this unsafe and unsightly condition. Take your truck to Pickup Outfitters for a little rear end suspension upgrade like Super Springs, Sumo Springs, or even an airbag suspension kit. Your truck will be safer, handle better, and most importantly, it will look better. People will start noticing the improvement to your rear end right away. And isn't that what it's all about? Get your rear suspension upgrade from the pros at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or check us out on the web at createacommotion.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Bohannon, single coverage. Thornton caught it. Complete. Tyquan Thornton lets him know what time it is.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Appreciate Richard Carr, their sponsorship of our segments on Baylor. Darrell Luce was he was the captain of that 1974 Southwest Conference team that beat Texas. That was one of the famous wins, but there were other wins along that way. They play Baylor in Texas tomorrow. Tonight, there's some new members of the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame, and an attorney, Darrell Luce, now joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. What was it like that week before 1974, that game against Texas, Darrell? And thank you very much for being a part of the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
you know, that's been 50 years ago, so I'm not sure how much I remember about the year before, except that we were doing pretty good. We'd beaten Arkansas. We lost to A&M. I don't remember if it was before or after that. It was probably before that. But considering we lost all of our conference games the year before, we were doing pretty good.
Did Texas have an air about them? Were they not afraid of you guys going into that game?
Well, I don't think they were afraid of us. If I remember correctly, Baylor had lost 17 consecutive times to Texas then. And if I remember right, I was 22, so I was 5 years old the last time Baylor had beaten Texas. So I don't think they were afraid of us, no.
What do you think about this team this year? And they're off to this nice start with Coach Aranda after last year was so unique and weird with COVID and no spring drills. Your thoughts about what you've seen so far?
I think they look pretty good. This is probably a little bit presumptuous of me to say this, but I've never been one to think that you can actually tell all that much from practice what you have, especially in the quarterback position, because, you know, these days, nobody's going to let their quarterbacks get hit in practice. They know it's not live. It's just different. That's how guys like Tom Brady slip to the sixth round. You don't know what's going to happen until the bullets start flying. And I'm not sure that the coaches knew exactly what they had in Gary Bohannon. To me, he's looked a lot better throwing the ball than I expected. And I think they figured that out. They're starting to go to his strength some. So, but I think they look pretty good overall and probably should get better.
Do you have is Texas for you as an alum? Is this the week you maybe feel a little bit more nostalgic, or is there a certain team that would make you feel that much more nostalgic?
Excuse me. You know, the Texas game was a huge game for us 50 years ago. When I was in high school, recruiting was quite a bit different. You didn't have summer camps. You didn't have people signing up when they were juniors. You had unlimited visits, unlimited, you know, I went out to breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 months in December, January, and February leading up to recruiting. And during my senior year, Texas, you know, offered me a scholarship, and I was all in. That's where I was going. I visited 5 times, and there were also unlimited visits back then. Being from a small town, I just wasn't quite ready for a campus at that time with 35,000 students. They hadn't figured out any mass transit. You had to park about 3 miles from the dorm, and the crush of humanity. And that just didn't sit well with me, and I ended up coming to Baylor instead. But, you know, Texas was in the middle of, or starting the run of, winning 7 straight conference championships at that time, leading up to 74. So if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I did not think they were arrogant. I thought Darrell Royal was a very humble man, great coach, considering his accomplishments. But if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So it meant a lot to play them.
You know, you look at this game now, and you've seen over the years from the Southwest Conference where you played, and then there was the Big 12 in 1996, and then there's Nebraska and Colorado. They leave. The Missouri and A&M, they leave, and now you have Texas and Oklahoma, and they leave. Do you feel like sometimes the Big 12, despite maybe being reactive rather than proactive, although they're trying to be proactive now with the expansion, has 9 lives?
You know, if I knew any of that, I could get myself a new suit and a briefcase and call myself a consultant and make a lot of money. But if you know, I really liked the way the Southwest Conference was. I understand the economics that colleges feel like they have to get all the money they can, and it sure sounds to me like the TV networks and contracts are controlling the agenda. And I hate to see that, but I guess I understand it. I sure hate to see all the old rivalries go away.
What do you think now about how linebackers are used compared to when you played? And yeah, I know it's been 50 years and it's been a long time and things change, even changed when you played compared to 10 or 20 years prior to you. You have the jack position, the star position, the hybrid positions at linebacker and what these guys can do. Your thoughts about Terrell Bernard or Jalen Petrie or whoever else?
You know, I really like the current style of linebacking. I think I would have been a much more effective player playing like that, even though I was a big guy for my size back then. I mean, I weighed 227 pounds my senior year, and one defensive lineman weighed that, and we were the two heaviest guys on the team. But even so, I wasn't a pusher and a shover. You know, I was 6'3", so that wasn't that much weight spread over my height. I wasn't a great guy to stand and hand fight with someone. I was better to run and get to the point of attack. So I think I would have excelled at that and liked it a whole lot better. As far as the guys you're talking about, I don't watch a whole lot of film, but sometimes when I'm supposed to be working and they post things on Sikkim 365, I'll look at some of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching Tyrell Barden in high school, and I picked him out as the player before he ever got here. You know, we were taught some things back then that I think were really kind of counterproductive, being a good player. You know, put a hat on them. How many times have you heard that?
Mm-hmm.
We were taught to lower your head, butt like a goat. And, you know, and a lot of times a really good running back would just bounce off of you when you did that. Instead of getting your head to one side or the other, get your arms around them and keep your feet moving and drive them backwards. And I remember Tyrell Barnard doing that in high school. Just run through the guys, pick them off the ground, and run them back. And he's done a real good job of that here, except when he's been hurt. You know, He's had a little bit of an injury bug. Petrie, I'll have to say, if he's listening, I'll apologize to him. When I've watched them trying to play him as a freshman in Matt Rule's first year, he looked like a duck out of water. I understand I think I read he had a serious knee injury in high school. So, you know, maybe he's trying to move up a level and still wasn't all back. But he's playing great now. I mean, he's just a playmaker. He puts himself in the right position and does his work early and makes a lot of great plays.
How much did playing football or being in any kind of competition in athletics prepare you for what you do for a living?
Well, I don't think I'm intimidated by anything that happens. I remember in law school, the professors would try to be mean and come pick up your notes and yell at you and, you know, try to make you feel down and get you off your game. You know, I played at Baylor. I'd run through be introduced through the goalpost at Memorial Stadium in a playoff game against Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, if some old man wants to get mad and yell at me and try to make me feel bad, that's not going to bother me as a lawyer.
Yeah, because you have to face some pretty large corporations, right? I've seen your resume. I mean, you got some pretty big bangers right there that you were going up against.
Well, I've had a really unique career, I think. I went to law school in the off season while I was playing professional football, and it took me 5 years that way. Then I graduated, and I was actually supposed to go back for my 7th year with the Detroit Lions, but to put it quite frankly, I valued my services a lot more than they did, and I decided it was time to get out while I could still walk, and I had a career I thought I could make more money at than I did in the NFL, and I was right.
Yeah, you were Colts, Vikings, Lions, again, captain of the 1974 Baylor Southwest Conference Championship team. Somebody just put up on the chat room, I bet Daryl has a lot of great Southwest Conference stories. Get that man a beer and let him tell you all the crazy things that used to be. Good times.
Well, you know, I don't know if it was as crazy when I was there. Some of them happened, but one of the things that happened to us, we went to Arkansas, and I think this was in '74, and it was early in the season. Nobody really knew how big a game it was going to be, but we had you know, we'd had a pretty good start. We'd played OU, which ended up being number one, not down to the wire, but down to the middle of the fourth quarter before they finally scored a couple of times. And then we beat Missouri and we beat Oklahoma State, who had a really good team. Really good team. I think they were ranked about 8th at that time. You know, conference schedule was quite a different thing back then. The non-conference schedule was quite a different thing back then. At Baylor, we played all the best teams you could play, I think mainly so that they get a payday. They needed the money. And we went up to Arkansas, and I don't think the players found out until we got home. There had been a bomb scare. Somebody had called and said they were going to blow up the motel. But I guess the coaches thought they had it handled because they didn't tell us about it until after the fact. But we won a wild game there. Neil Jeffrey got knocked out with, I think, a shot to the head. So Mark Jackson had to come in, and they fumbled a couple times on 4th down on the goal line, and pull out a win. It didn't look like much at the time, but it ended up being decisive when we got to the end of the year. A&M game was always a big game. Baylor and A&M have had a big rivalry going way back before me, back to when they had some a pretty tragic event over at the old stadium, the big fight. So everybody remembered that. You knew a lot of the people we went to high school with and played against in high school, since he had all the schools in Texas, you'd see him on the field.
Daryl, you mentioned that you wanted to get out while you could still walk. And you know the stories about former players, especially the veterans. They have been fighting tooth and nail, and they're starting to get some of the money back as far as retirement, royalties, whatever else. Is that something that you still get anything out of that? Is that massive, whatever that was, lawsuit against the NFL? Did that even affect you, even though you seemed to be healthy when you left the game?
There have been some increases in the retirement fund.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I got out, we were probably looking at, after 6 years of service, something no more than $1,200 a month, no cost of living at age 55. And some of those, they call the legacy program, has upped that somewhat, and it's better than it was. And, I waited till I was 65 to take any of it. So I get a little money out of it. I think the bigger dollars that you're talking about is if people have had traumatic brain injuries or spinal injuries where they're really disabled. I think there's a fund for that. But, like any funds like that, they're pretty jealous with them. So I don't really know that much about it. I haven't applied for it. It'd be kind of hard for me to say I'm mentally disabled while I'm still practicing law. Some people.
That's a hell of a commercial.
I did have a lawyer in Baltimore tell me that one time.
I don't know if that would fly with the bar.
No, I'm going to hire you tomorrow. In all seriousness, when you watch the way the game is officiated and played, and I mean, now I saw something the other day, and I think it was Fran Tarkenton with the Vikings and somebody, I don't know who it was. They got into a fight at the end of the play in the end. I mean, they're just wailing at each other. When you see now the way the game is officiated, and I know they're trying to keep the target and all that, the violence of the game, concussions, do you sometimes go, what are they doing to the game that I played?
Well, for one thing, I will say, I really think the way that we were taught to tackle was bad.
Mm-hmm.
We were taught to head across the bow and hit them with your head. Now, most of the time as a linebacker, now maybe not some of the guys now, but most of the time as a linebacker, the guy you're tackling is faster than you are. So if you lead him, he can cut back and leave you in the dust. On the other hand, if you just tried to run straight through him, catch your head up, and when he stopped you run into him, it would be a better tackle, in my opinion. But going all the way back to 9th grade, they would line us up 15 yards apart, run together. Most of these coaches are dead. This is so they can't refute what I'm saying. But lower your heads and butt your helmets together. Now, sometime during that phrase about they started saying, see what you hit, have your eyes up. But they still wanted you to hit with the crown of your helmet. And now I agree with the targeting thing. I think the defensive players get a real bad rap. When you're going to tackle a receiver or a running back, and at the last second, how many times have you seen them lower their head forward?
Mm-hmm.
And the helmets get hit together, and the defensive player gets ejected. I mean, how many times have you seen that?
Oh, all the time.
I think it should be nobody else is going to like this. I think it should be a more subjective rule by the official. If it was, intentionally launching, trying to cause injury, if two guys just happen to run together real hard and they're both doing the same thing, I don't think anybody should be penalized. Now, I think if, I have seen it called a few times that as a defensive player, you never would see, like a peel black block on a punt return or a kickoff return where you just get absolutely annihilated. It wasn't many years ago that wasn't a penalty. I like that one, but I just think they could. I think they could allow a little bit more of, if it's truly a dangerous intentional play, as opposed to, two guys, they both lower their heads and just say, well, that's kind of both sides. And I guess, I don't know. I'm not sure I can argue against something that's meant to keep people from breaking their necks and getting concussions, but it does seem to be kind of odd when all the commentators that watch games all the time for a living will give their opinion on it, and then it's exactly opposite of what the referees do.
Well, like a fullback's job is to be a battering ram. The ram his body, head, whatever, helmet into the oncoming linebacker, defensive tackle, a safety, whatever. And you don't see, but like I've seen like one or two times since they began targeting where an offensive player has been called for that. And when they do, you're like, well, I saw an Oklahoma fullback one time get that, and it happens.
The only time you see it is on kind of a crackback type situation.
Yeah.
Blindside, I'll call it, out in the open. When some of those hits are just as bad in the middle of the line, you're absolutely right. What are you supposed to do as a linebacker when a 5'10", 230-pound, this shows my age, Norm Boulash comes through there and hits you in the chin with the bottom of the top of his helmet? If you don't get down there with it, you're gonna be hurting.
Hey, Daryl, great to have you. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy your weekend. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Daryl Luce, he was the captain of the 1974 Baylor team that beat Texas, scored more points against them, I think, than anyone did up until that point. Broke a near 2-decade drought of beating Texas, who he mentioned had won a bunch of Southwest Conference championships consecutively, and Baylor, of course, had struggled. That was Grant Tapp. That was that first. Hey, and there were a couple other wins, and they did play Michigan, or they played whoever, anywhere. Thanks for Daryl Luce and his time. Coming up next.
By the way, same draft class in the Baltimore Colts as Roosevelt Leaks.
From University of Texas, one of the great backs that sometimes doesn't get mentioned enough. It's like we say Ricky Williams, Cedric Benson. We say, obviously, even now, Bijan Robinson or the others that have come along. Roosevelt Leaks was before Earl Campbell at the same time, earlier than Earl Campbell.
I bet you it's because he was right before Earl.
Yeah, and Earl kind of like Chris Gibson, another guy from back in the day. When we come back, we're going to check in Ole Miss. We've done this a couple of different times. Neil McCready covers Ole Miss for rebelgrove.com. They've got a pretty darn good schedule, and they keep on looking up, and here comes somebody else. That's next. Neil McCready, rebelgrove.com, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Bad news. Computer chip shortages have negatively affected all vehicle inventory worldwide. The good news is General Motors just announced they're restarting production and will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. So cars and trucks are coming, and now's the time to contact Richard Carr and get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they're being shipped. Drive a new car or truck when you get on Richard Carr's Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list, and you can get your car or truck first as they arrive. If you're looking for a pickup, well, they've got the GMC Sierras. If you're looking for an SUV, consider the Buick lineup with size, versatility, and options to fit every lifestyle. Or maybe you want a combination of sophistication and power. Well, check out a Cadillac XT6 or a Cadillac Escalade. Cars and trucks are coming, so call or contact Richard Carr online with what you want and let them get you on that Choose Your Inbound Vehicle list today to get your vehicle before anyone else. If you're looking to save and drive today, Richard Carr does have a boatload of premium pre-owned cars and trucks, and with dozens of lenders, they say yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is the goal. For those in the Waco area, Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership. Give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr Motors, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me.
Refinance your vehicle today at Genco with rates as low as 1.69% for 48 months and have 90 days of no payments. Refinancing can lower your payment, so you pay less for your car. Apply online and get an additional 0.1% off our already low rate. Thank you, Genco. And don't forget, your vote counts. Vote today for your local school to win $1,500 with Genco's School Spirit Competition. For more information, go to GencoFCU.org.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
And Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
Christmas is the biggest time of year for engagements. You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10, every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We're on a webcam today. Craig Smoak to my left, Paul Catalina up against the other side of the window. This is the press box for high school football, week number 10 of 11 in the state of Texas. We'll have Cedar Hill midway, 7 o'clock pregame, and of course, as well, 7:30 is the kickoff coming up after this. 7 o'clock is when we'll do it. We'll also be on 106.7 FM, The Eagle. Ole Miss hanging around 6-1, and Neil McCready joins us, rebelgrove.com. They've kind of weathered the storm, but where they are in that conference, you can kind of look up and you never seem to get away from someone punching you a little bit or trying to come at you, like, for example, Auburn this week. Your thoughts on where they are, Neil, as compared to maybe even a month ago?
Much better on defense, really beat up on offense, finding ways to win, which is the key thing good teams do. Really being guided by an elite quarterback in Matt Corral, who's having a special season. And the beat-up part on offense, especially offensive line and wide receiver, that's the big concern going into Saturday against Auburn.
How big was it for Matt Corral to come out? Because he looked like, again, the whole offense was beat up. But after that game out of Tennessee, he looked like he was really beat up. How big was it for them for that not to be a big deal?
I mean, huge. Obviously, he's an elite quarterback, maybe the best quarterback in the country. And, the thought of him suffering an injury that would cost him time is the end of any championship dream that they might have. So for him to be healthy enough to play and play well against LSU was big. And then they got a huge lift from their defense, which played after a kind of a slow start, played exceptionally well and let them get out of there with a pretty easy win against LSU.
Neil, how much talk has there been about the coaching carousel and Lane Kiffin's potential participation in that? How much has that served as a storyline here over the last few days or even more than that? And has it really made any difference at all, you think, in terms of the tenor and tone of the team?
Well, I mean, the Lane Kiffin coaching carousel storyline has been active since the first day that he got here.
Right.
I think it will always be that way, whether he stays here 2 more months or 20 more years or anywhere in between. I think he likes his name being out there. I think his representation likes his name being out there. Lane gets clicks, so media love to write about Lane. But is it a distraction? I don't think so. I don't believe kids pay a lot of attention to that stuff. They're pretty focused. They've appeared to be pretty focused. And, listen, the one job that's out there that everybody talks about the most is LSU. But that if you know a lot about that job and about Lane, that's not the greatest fit in the world. If it were Florida that was open or something like that, I'd say, well, it's something to keep an eye on. And who knows, right? I mean, something might open up where he goes. Maybe he has a hankering for the NFL at some point, and that happens. I don't know. But I think Ole Miss is prepared to pay him. They're prepared to give him what he wants. And at some point, if he leaves, it'll just be because he wants to leave. It won't be because there's no money or resources or those kind of things.
Is it more likely that Lane Kiffin is the head coach next year, or that Jeff Lebby might not be the offensive coordinator because he got a head coaching job somewhere?
Well, I mean, I think Jeff's certainly qualified and has a real chance to be a head coach at a lot of places. I mean, I think if something happened where Ole Miss won big and Lane left, I think Jeff would be on a very short list, maybe a list of one for the Ole Miss job. But, let's see what happens at some different places. The carousel is going to turn. You guys know that. It's going to turn in late November and December, and it'll probably go pretty fast, and some people will change seats on the merry-go-round, and some people will jump off the merry-go-round and all that. And I mean, Levy's name's going to come up at Texas Tech. It would come up at a lot of places if, like let's say Cincinnati, if Luke Fickell left for a Big Ten job or something like that. I think Jeff's name would be on the short list there. So it's hard to say in the end of October what's going to happen. But, I think at a minimum, Jeff Lebby's going to be a really highly paid offensive coordinator in a year, and there's a decent chance he's a head coach.
Well, good for him. Good luck if, in fact, that occurs. The SEC has these late season non-conference games. Sometimes they can stick a nobody in there, and they've done that for a long, long time. And Ole Miss has Liberty, and I know they're 6-2. They're not running the table, but that's a little bit dicey. I know Ole Miss should win the game, but that's a little bit more dicey than normal, right?
I guess. Look, I went to graduate school at Louisiana Monroe, and I had that game on my computer. Louisiana Monroe is not a good team, and they beat Liberty. It's difficult for me to imagine that Liberty has the horses to come into Oxford or any other SEC school and win. The quarterback's very good, Malik Willis, but the tools around him are not. So in an ideal world, you'd play some 1-7 team that didn't have a pulse, but Hugh Freeze was the former coach at Ole Miss. That'll be the storyline. Nobody will take that lightly. It'll get some headlines, but no. I mean, look, there's 3 games left on Ole Miss's schedule that are potential landmines: Auburn, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. But it's not Liberty and it's not Vanderbilt.
Well, let's talk about that one that is that team that could be a threat, Auburn. What do you see from the War Eagles? Obviously, they've got some talent as well and familiar foe. But what do you see in the Tigers, and in particular how they match up with Ole Miss this time around?
Well, they're coming off an open date. They played really well 2 weeks ago up in Fayetteville against Arkansas, and Bo Nix played one of his better games in an Auburn uniform. He's always had success against Ole Miss. They've got a strong running game with Bigsby and the freshman from Mississippi. They've always been pretty good up front. I think they're pretty good up front this year on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their linebacker core is a little banged up. They're waiting to see if one of their top linebackers can get back, and And then in their secondary, I think they just kind of average. And, that's the key thing for Ole Miss is, can you run the football against Auburn? They've run it against most everybody this year. They didn't run it well against Alabama, and that ended up being the downfall that day. But if they can run it against Auburn and create some situations where they're ahead of the six, they're going to be able to take some of the deep shots they want to take with Corral. And then defensively, it's just about containing Bo Nix. You can't let him beat you with his feet. You have to make sure that if he's going to beat you, he beats you with his arm. And you have to control their running game.
Can Corral win the Heisman?
Can he? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, he's got that. He's in that mix, and it seems like this year there's been some of the big names that people thought they're not even a part of it anymore. What will he have to do other than his stats? Maybe win the rest, or possibly lose one more?
Yeah, I think he could win it at 10-2 with huge stats. I think if they're 11-1, they're not getting there without him playing well. So if Ole Miss is 11-1 in that scenario, and again, I'm not predicting that at all. In fact, I don't think that's likely. But if they were to get to 11-1, that means they beat Auburn tomorrow night. It means they beat Texas A&M in 2 weeks. It means they beat Mississippi State on Thanksgiving night. It means a lot of people see those games. And for them to win those games, he has to play really well. I think if Ole Miss goes 11-1, he's winning the Heisman, with the possible exception of Bryce Young getting super hot at Alabama down the stretch, beating Georgia in the SEC title game. That might be enough for him to win it. But at 10-2 with big stats, depending on kind of what happens with C.J. Stroud, what happens with Bryce Young, sure, he can win it.
What was that like? Did you go to the game in Tennessee? Were you there?
I was not there, but
okay.
I had a staff member who was there, and it was an absolute circus.
Yeah, that was a bad scene, man. That was weird. We overblow stuff like that, but that was nuts.
Well, it just came out a little while ago, or a couple hours ago, that Tennessee's banned 16 students and I think like another 9 non-students for throwing stuff. They identified them for throwing stuff on the field, so they banned them for.
What about the other 1,500 objects?
Yeah, I don't know about all that. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, clearly it was just those 25 people standing by the garbage can, heaving stuff on the field. Did he keep that golf ball that he showed to the ref? I thought that was pretty funny. When he just
what do you think?
Yeah,
it's Lane Kiffin. What do you think? You think he kept the golf ball?
Oh,
Lane kept the golf ball. Yeah, Lane will. Lane probably has a name for the golf ball at this point.
He probably has it in some kind of a glass container behind his on Zoom or whatever.
Amidst all the other trophies and stuff they show recruits, the golf ball's right there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's got it saved for some big tweet that he's got planned, I'm sure.
Hey, Neil, thank you, man. Appreciate your time.
All right,
yep, that's Neil McCready.
Thanks for having me.
Joins us, rebelgrove.com on Ole Miss. And what a nice run they've had. I mean, they're kind of sitting right there. They lost like 21 to Alabama. They got the win against Arkansas in that crazy shootout. LSU, but, again, they beat LSU, and LSU coming off a win. But now Auburn, A&M coming down the pipeline, and the possibility of whatever they do in a bowl game as well.
Well, Bo Nix, Matt Corral, that'll be a fun little quarterback duel. It's the game itself, a lot of good little matchups, and it's just two good teams out of the SEC doing battles. So I think that'll make for a fun contest, and obviously a lot riding on it. And I mean, you asked about Matt Corral and the high, yeah, absolutely, he's got a chance. I mean, he's right there. He's got to be a third of the country's favorite, and a third loves Stroud, or a third love this guy, but he's 1C, 1B, 1A, whatever you want to name him. And I agree with Neil that if they were to go run the table here. Absolutely, he could be the guy who raises the trophy at the end with the wins they had. But this should be a fun game.
And there's precedent for a Heisman Trophy winner to get absolutely boat raced a couple times and once or twice and then win it. I mean, look, RG3 had one tough loss, and then we thought he was kind of maybe out of the Heisman race because Oklahoma State and A&M that year just beat the living dog crud out of Baylor, and then they come back after that and beat Oklahoma, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, almost lost to Kansas, and then they beat Oklahoma. So that was how he kind of built up his Heisman resume. So the Alabama game, if they're 10-2, I'm still, if I have a Heisman vote, I might vote for Matt Corral over everybody.
Well, I do, and I kind of haven't even really thought about who I'm going to vote for, because right now there's still so much that can be done.
Yeah, but there's a field that's there. Like, the field's clear now. I mean, it's maybe Caleb Williams throws it for a wild card and you could factor him in. But, I mean, it's pretty much been Matt Corral and C.J. Stroud. And, there's a couple of others that you can throw in there as well. But, I mean.
So C.J. Stroud's start of the year just kind of gets erased.
Well, C.J. Stroud wasn't the problem with Ohio State. It was the fact that their defense was a turnstile of like, oh, look, there that guy goes.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud's played pretty well of late. So, yeah. Caleb Williams, I think you got to throw in there depending on how Oklahoma finishes. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. And then, the whole part about Kiffin, is good to hear him kind of – like, I didn't get the LSU thing, man. Like, I said that. I was like, is LSU really that much better of a job? And you guys were like, yeah. And I'm thinking, but, like, how much different, though, is it really? Because it's the same division. It's the same – like, I get the support.
Than Ole Miss?
Yeah. I get the support and you're not sharing the state, but, like, they're not that far off. It's not like talking about, like, USC versus, like San Diego State or something. Yeah. I mean, okay, you leave San Diego State to go to USC. Just for me, and I don't know how it works down there, too, because, I'm sure there's some fans down there who'd be like, you're insane. Of course you leave Ole Miss for LSU. But I'm like, I don't know, man, especially when you could have a lot of other opportunities, like you said, that may be a bit more enticing if they were to come open here in the future. But, yeah, Levy's going to be interesting. We saw him as a running backs coach at Baylor for a few years, and then, obviously was out with the whole changeover that happened. But he's done a good job of, kind of building up his experience and building up his relationships and just stops and all that. And, it'll be interesting to see where he lands in the fallout of everything here in the coaching carousel.
Jeff Levy did a good job of getting the hell out of this area, along with others, and they've all kind of rejuvenated their careers. And not everybody, because some of them are still struggling a little bit with where they are and if they've had a chance to stick. But Jeff Levy did a nice job, and he's still in the South. He's at a program that's obviously getting a lot of attention, and he's earned the attention he's gotten as well.
Just on Lane Kiffin at LSU real quick, I think LSU probably doesn't also necessarily want to hire another big personality-driven guy. They probably need somebody who's like more of a straightforward thing, because they just came off that. Usually you go,
what was Nick Saban?
He's not a personality-driven guy. Not that he doesn't have one.
Les Miles.
Les was kind of a character, eating grass, and then
Kim Mulkey.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Well, they got plenty already.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So maybe go the opposite direction.
When we come back, Jeff Howe, he covers Texas. They play Baylor tomorrow, 11 o'clock at McLean Stadium. We'll all be there. Our pregame tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Tomorrow morning from our studios at 101 Elm Avenue. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. And yet again, they continue. In fact, they're about to announce some new incentives for the month of November. Yeah, that's coming up. So stay tuned for more details from Alan Samuels. For right now, though, Ram Power Days bringing the first truck brand to Texas. The first truck to bring back the top brand overall spot, new vehicle, initial quality by J.D. Power. The 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Get a total value of up to $6,000, 2.9% for 72 months, plus a $2,000 bonus cash offer as well. All first responders get an extra $500 at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. The Jeep Grand Cherokee, Laredo, or Limited, that's the 2021. Total values of $3,500 or 0% for 72 months. That's going on right now. The prestigious Jeep Heritage, obvious in the Grand Cherokee L. First responders for this, offering an extra $500 cash as well for you in the Jeep Adventure Days, Ram Power Days, Jeep Adventures Days. And again, there are a lot. They have cars. And Ted Teague and his staff, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott at edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, Jeff Howell covers the University of Texas. Many things, Horns 247. He's also on the Horn and much more, podcasts and all that. He joins us. He was with Craig for many years on his show and now with us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Is this like rally the troops? This is up against the wall? Win one for the Gipper type moment for UT this week?
I was thinking about this today. You know, it feels like covering this program for the last decade. There have been a lot of these moments. So for the players, I'm sure it is. For somebody like me that's observed it from afar, again, these have been pretty frequent. But, you know, I'll say this. You know, I think the frustrating thing for Texas fans, especially the last few weeks, when you look at the initial plans that Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski and even Jeff Banks on special teams had for the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State games, you saw it click, and you saw Texas. There was a reason why they were able to build big leads in both of those games. It's just the inability to adjust and how the model of playing complementary football has just been completely disintegrated in the second half of both of those games. It's frustrating. So you can look and see that it feels like they're close, yet by the end of the game, you still feel like they're so far away. But I think that part of it, though, Smokey, those first halves, there have built the reasons why they built big leagues. I know that's what Sark is hammered home to these players. That, hey, you're good enough to get in these games. You just got to finish them. So I think that's where kind of that circle the wagons mentality is coming from, and why they've been able to take something positive out of those two losses.
Is that really maybe an overall that this team has talent but not depth yet?
I think that's pretty accurate, Paul. I mean, I say this all the time. When you look at the best teams in college football, one thing they all have in common, they've got talent and depth. And I know it's kind of a tired example, but I think about the 2005 Texas team that won the national championship. I think they had 7 offensive linemen on that team that ended up playing in the National Football League. The entire 2 deep on the defensive line play in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Ross won the Thorpe Award the following year. He didn't even start on that team. That's what you're talking about when you've got talented depth. I think Texas, you look, there are some spots where they are talented. Everybody knows about Bijan Robinson. Xavier Worthy is a game breaker at the receiving position for them. Kamari Overshown is one of the better, I think, in-the-box defenders in this conference. But as you go down the line, there, and we can talk about position by position, there are definitely some spots where if a guy goes down or if they got in a hole, and we've seen that at some positions, edge on defense being one of them, they just don't have enough quality bodies in the event of injuries or if a guy's having an off day.
So, Jeff, kind of in line with that, we know Bijan's gonna do what Bijan does, and there'll be some other running backs. But, I mean, Texas does have the ability to hit the big play. Baylor, if they have shown a weakness on defense, it's been giving up the big type of splash play. I know Worthy can go, and Joshua Moore's definitely proven some things in the past, but how much did that Jordan Whittington injury kind of leave them searching for answers outside of those two and even with those two?
Yeah, it killed them, Craig, and where it's really killed them is on third down. And Whittington, too, was kind of a guy that they set up a lot of short stuff for him. He was a guy that, hey, if you're in 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11, you can throw him a bubble screen and get you right back on schedule where you're 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4. They don't have that right now. Whittington is an interesting guy because, yes, he's a receiver, but look, we all saw what he did in the state championship game for Cuero a few years ago. He's got his kind of running back instinct with the ball in his hands, and they don't have another guy like that. Xavier Worthy has done some great things, but I think you're kind of seeing the growing pains. And Joshua Moore, as productive as he can be, does have some physical limitations, so you've got to use him a certain way. I think it's twofold. I think, it's actually 3 keys to them on offense. I think key number 1, when Texas lines up in 12 personnel with their 2 tight end looks at Cade Brewer and Jared Wiley, they're real effective running the football. I think one thing that Sark has to do, and he's talked about maybe trying to do this a little bit more, they got to get those tight ends involved in other ways than just having them go in motion, when they run some kind of split zone concept or something like that. You got to use tight end screens, pop passes. You got to get those guys involved to make yourself not so much predictable. The second part of that is they're looking for one of those other receivers to step up. Kelvontae Dixon and Marcus Washington are 2 guys that I know Sark has talked about for weeks now. They feel like both of those guys are close. They're just looking for one of those guys to take the next step. And the third part of that is where you can get some extra help on offense. Don't be surprised if you see a little bit more of Roschon Johnson tomorrow than you've seen the last few weeks. And then Keelan Robinson is one of those guys that has the kind of speed. I mean, it is that DJ Monroe, Marquise Goodwin level of like system shocking speed that he's got. He's just gotten 2 combined touches in the last 2 games. So they're trying to figure out ways to get him the ball. So it's either going to come from one of those 3 things, Craig, to make up for the loss of Whittington. Either one of those receivers has to step up, Sark has to do a better job of doing more with the tight end, or they just got to play more 2-back personnel, or maybe even use 3 running backs on the field at the same time, because that is one position where they actually do have talent and depth right now.
Why are they getting kind of grilled against the run? What's going on with the defense there?
I think this, Smokey, I think it comes down to, and I think Baylor's, when I look at defenses in this league, I think Oklahoma is probably where Texas wants to be, where you've got multiple guys on a defensive front that are going to play in the NFL. I think realistically where you'd like to be in a good place to be is where Baylor is, where you've just got so much experience at all levels of your defense. Texas doesn't really have either one of those right now. They got some experienced guys in some places, but to your point, Smokey, about stopping the run, and I've said this all offseason, The biggest concern I had about this defense was they were not going to be able to replace what they got from Joseph Osai last year. I mean, a guy that could single-handedly destroy your opponent's game plan by himself. They just don't have that guy. And, you look at Tom Herman. I wouldn't say Tom Herman he definitely didn't do a bad job of recruiting, but one of the areas where they were deficient, and we even saw this to an extent under Charlie Strong, the ability to really identify, evaluate, recruit, develop real true edge guys. I mean, they kind of, I won't say they caught lightning in a bottle with Osai, but Osai was one guy they did it right with. But they've had a bunch of misses at those defensive end positions, and the scheme changes they've had hasn't helped either. That's why Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski, that's why they had to go into the transfer portal and get a bunch of bodies to play, those two hybrid end positions in this defense. The problem they got, Smokey, they just don't, A, have frontline talent, and B, the guys they have had either haven't played well, or in the case of Jacoby Jones, when he got hurt in the Oklahoma game, they lost him to a foot injury. He might not be back before the end of the regular season. They were already kind of suspect against the run, but they've really had trouble fortifying the edges. They made an adjustment in the Oklahoma State game. They started playing with more four linebacker personnel. That helped a little bit, but kind of what's compounded their issues, going back to what we talked about with the Whittington situation and how shaky Texas has been on third down the last 2 weeks. The offense's inability to sustain drives in the second half, that defense is just getting overwhelmed in the second half, where, I mean, when the offense has series or stretches where you're 4 3-and-outs in a row, you're 4 3-and-outs in a series of 5 possessions like you were in the Oklahoma game. If you look at play differential in the second half of their last 2 losses, I think Oklahoma was plus 12 in play differential in the second half. Oklahoma State was plus 24. The defense was on the field 24 more plays than the offense was in the second half of the Oklahoma State game. They just flat got gassed in the second half. So basically, they've got issues, but the fact that the offense hasn't been able to sustain drives in the second half, it's compounded their issues and made a bad problem a really bad problem.
So for tomorrow's game, is that – I mean, I think this is, probably a pretty evenly matched contest overall, Jeff, but are those matchups the ones that are going to keep Texas fans up at night, that Baylor wants to run the ball pretty much right at you, and that's what Texas doesn't want to see at all?
Yeah, Paul, and I think to, kind of piggybacking on what we were just talking about, I think it's the way Baylor wants to run the football. They want to run that wide zone, and like I said, Texas, whether you look at Oklahoma State ranks them outside zone, Oklahoma just gutted Texas with counterplay. Texas has just not been good fortifying the edges on defense. And I think not just that, but when you look at what Baylor does well, they want to run their passing game off of that and get Gary Bohannon involved in play action. I'm sure you guys have discussed it. I was surprised how good his numbers have been in play action situations this year. You go back and watch the Oklahoma State game. Oklahoma State did a really good job of using Spencer Sanders on some bootleg action and play action, and really using that to kind of hold the ends and getting an extra half run game in the second half. Baylor, that's not an adjustment or a scheme thing. That's what Baylor wants to do. I think that is the big worry for Texas. If Baylor can get their wide zone run game going, it's got the potential to be a long day for the defense, and another game where offensively maybe you're looking at you need to get to the upper 30s or the 40s to win.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate your time as always. Do a great job covering Texas. Jeff Howe, Horns 247. And also the Horn as well, among many things with covering the University of Texas.
Yeah, love listening to Jeff break down the Longhorns. Think he does a great job. Glad to have him on the show, and certainly has me more interested in some of the matchups and stuff that are coming up tomorrow. And looking forward to this game.
When we come back, another way to break down the game is someone who does that as well. Like, he is the X's and O's guy. Sam Bradshaw, S11 on the site and on Twitter, on Baylor and Texas and what each will try to do and how each will try to defend what the other does. Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com. Look, this is the best year for sports. It's the best year or best time of year for sports and sports betting, because you've got the NFL at the midway point in their season pretty much. College football's past the midway point. You got a lot of stuff going on there. Not only that, you've got the NHL, the NBA, and the World Series all going on right now, plus UFC, boxing, PGA golf, so many things you can bet on, and they've got all pretty much action on every sport around the world. So go to BetUS.com today. Use promo code SICKM125. That's 125% bonus on cash, or SICKM200. That's 200% if you use crypto to Make your bets today. That's BetUS.com, the near 3-decade leader in sports betting. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
New cars and trucks are coming. New car inventory is low, but GM just announced they will release a steady flow of vehicles through the fall. Now is the time to get on Richard Car's inbound vehicle list. Choose your inbound vehicle, get on the list, and get your car or truck first. Call Richard Carr Motors or go online to choose your inbound vehicle today. Go to richardcar.com for details.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. And a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy. And, you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Biggie in trouble and sacked. Terrell Bernard, the captain.
It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
2nd and 1. Keep it on the ground. Smith, touchdown. The Bears strike again.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Our 5 o'clock hour in about 20 minutes or so. Brad Gable, former Baylor quarterback, came out of Cuero High School, now in the real estate business, been very successful. He's inducted tonight to the B Association Baylor Athletic Hall of Fame. He will join us at the bottom of the hour. We're now joined by Sam Bradshaw, Sikkim365.com football analyst, X's and O's. And Sam, thank you very much for being a part of the show. Let's start with Baylor, with what they do on offense. How does that affect what Texas is good or not good at?
Thanks for having me on. And first and foremost, with what Baylor does on offense, key is going to be, can you get the wide zone going against this defense to the point that they have to creep people up? Because this Texas team has really played a lot of conservative coverages, and they've tried to keep things in front of them, even in games where their run defense was not getting it done. I mean, Arkansas was a textbook example of that. And it's one of those things, if they can do what Oklahoma State did and really limit that wide zone, they have the athletes to potentially do it, but they haven't really been able to play consistently against the run in their front six. So do they stick with their conservative looks, or do they break out a more aggressive look like their defensive coordinator did when he was at Washington in 2019 playing against BYU and Jeff Grimes? And that game, they played a lot more man coverage, and BYU really struggled to break it at that point. So I could see Texas going different ways, but the number one thing for Texas is they have to make Gary Bohannon beat them. If they sit back and let Baylor get that wide zone going, it's going to be a long day for the Longhorns if that's the case.
Sam, we just talked to Jeff Howe, who covers the Longhorns, and one of the things he said is, the way, it's not that just Baylor runs the ball, but if you look at the way they do it, running it to the outside, that is the best matchup that maybe they can hope to go in for against Texas, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, Baylor will have the aiming points for their blockers the outside, but make no mistake, this running game, it wants to get north and south. They want to get you moving, and then they want to find a crease to get north-south. But yeah, with that Texas team, they've struggled to stop the run, and part of that's schematic, part of that's how they don't want to give up the big play, so they're playing a little short-handed up front numerically. But yeah, if Baylor can get that run game going, it'll be very good for the Bears, but it really depends on how Texas comes out. They've had a week off to prepare. Do they throw some major tendency breakers at you and come out with something they haven't put on film this year?
Sam, over on the defensive side of the football, what do you see from Casey Thompson that presents a challenge for this defense?
Well, the first thing that jumps out to me is his legs. The kid, I don't think he's going to be Caleb Williams running the ball, but I think he's athletic. He can pick up some first downs for you, and he's a decent quarterback. He's been able to make some good plays for him. And Ron Roberts came to Baylor from Louisiana Lafayette, who coincidentally opened the season against the Longhorns. I think 9 out of 11 times that Louisiana Lafayette got him in 3rd and 5 or more, Texas was either able to scramble or throw for a conversion on 9 of them on either 3rd or 4th down. So I think Baylor can get them to 3rd or 4th down. It's a question of, can you get off the field? And can you get that passing game taken down a peg? They're not overly consistent in the passing game, and there's really only one receiver that absolutely scares you. But they can manufacture some big plays for him, and Casey Thompson and his legs, if you're not accounting for him well enough, he can make you pay by giving them a fresh set of downs, and then you have to deal with Bijan Robinson all over again.
Yeah, this could end up being, right, one of those games that even though time of possession in this day and age of football doesn't always mean much, that this could be one of those where one team wears down the other if they can move the sticks and get 150, 200 yards rushing?
Potentially. I mean, you got two good running games. And, Aranda, I think he called Bijan Robinson the best running back in the Big 12. And, that's high praise. You've got some very good ones this year. And Robinson makes some absurd cuts. He's very good on contact. He's a very good pass receiver. So look for Texas to try and get him involved in the passing game, particularly if Baylor goes with certain variations on man coverage. Sarkisian loves to get the running backs matched up against linebackers in the passing game and give them a lot of junk to try and run through in order to get to that responsibility. It's one of those games where Baylor has the defensive line to hold up against the Texas offensive line. The question is, how are you going to be able to deny some of their shot plays and their RPOs in doing so? Because they've got a mobile quarterback, and while the quarterback read game isn't a huge part of what they do, they'll take advantage of it. And beyond that, you need to get a lot of bodies around Bijan Robinson. He's been able to take a lot of good tacklers and make them look silly all year.
Sam, for the Texas passing game and their receivers, we've talked about Jordan Whittington on the show not being there, but which one of them scares you the most with what Baylor matches up with defensive back wise?
Well, the guy that scares you is Xavier Worthy. He's like a 10'5", 100 meters guy. He's pure speed. He's a lot like a taller Tevin Reed in some regards. He's not overly heavy, but if he gets loose, he's got a very good chance of being gone. Joshua Moore and whoever steps in for Whittington, they're all right. But I think if there's anybody that's going to have a Puka Nacua kind of game against Baylor, it would be Worthy. He's got the ability to go just not only just stress you in terms of going deep, but also just trying to keep up with him across the field. Even if he doesn't break into the open, it's just an awful lot of speed to deal with. It's going to impact how you're covering them. And a lot of shorter completions might be opened just due to the respect they give his speed.
And you got to watch out for some of those shorter completions probably going to Bijan Robinson too, huh? I mean, he's probably their third best receiver as it stands right now.
Basically, and they'll split their running backs out as receivers, both Bijan Robinson and the Alabama transfer. I think their third stringer, the one that has the game-breaking straight line speed.
Robinson, Keelan Robinson,
Yeah. It's interesting. A guy like him, like Bijan, everyone knows he's the dude, and yet it's crazy that he gets so wide open on some of these throws out in the flat. Like there's nobody. They scheme up a defense. There's nobody around him.
Well, a lot of what Sarkisian wants to do offensively, going back to his time at Alabama, is he wants to run the ball. And then when you try and bring zone looks to get extra bodies against the run, he has run-pass options designed to force you into a lot of man-to-man looks to take those routes away as well. And when you do that, simple concept, like one of the things they love to run, getting the ball to the running back, is a lot of those flat routes and wheel routes to the running back. But the receivers are running mesh. That's that old Mike Leach staple where you have two crossing routes. Basically, the receivers could almost slap hands as they're crossing around each other. But if you're a linebacker in the middle of the field and you've got crossing routes on either side of you and the running back's running to the sideline, that's an awful lot of traffic to get over if you don't completely bust your assignment mentally to begin with. So that's probably part and parcel of why a lot of those throws you see to him in the flat are so wide open, is between the running game and between all the traffic they have to get through if they're in man coverage. That's an awful lot to ask of a 230-pound guy. And, not every team has somebody that can just absolutely fly at that position.
So, Sam, Aranda in his press conference this week, he talked about, one of the things they did during the bye week was looking at breaking tendencies. And I think they did some of that against BYU as well. But when you think of Baylor breaking tendencies, just in general, what do you think of?
I don't think it's going to be earth-shattering. I don't think they're going to be breaking out new blocking schemes or more general concepts. But I think it's going to be a lot more about your formations, or, are you bringing certain blitzes when you're on certain downs? For instance, Mike Gundy attributes some of the later success they had against the Longhorns running the ball to the fact that they set their formation differently in the second half than they did in the first half, which, that's something that the casual fan would not notice, but definitely can play into those coordinators. They've broken down film. They're placing educated guesses based on what you've done in the past. If you can behave in a way they don't expect, big plays can be had. And I expect both staffs to be breaking a few tendencies here and there. If you're on the right hash and you're in the pistol, are you always running right? Are you always running left? That was the big secret when TCU beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, or the Peach Bowl, I think, back the year that Baylor and TCU almost made the playoff. They knew based on where Ole Miss's tight end lined up which way they were running. So after they slanted like it was going out of style, depending either this way or that way, Ole Miss couldn't run the ball. And then Bo Wallace had to throw him out of that every third down, and that wasn't going to happen. So the opportunity to self-scout and eliminate some of your own tendencies is huge.
Sam Bradshaw, who he delivered a baby about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it, guys? About 2 weeks ago. Thank God you're doing okay. How much on average consecutive hours of sleep are you getting at night?
I think the longest stretch I've had is 4 to 5, but typically I'm getting about 3.
I don't know if that's good or not.
That's what Edison used to do.
Well, it's going to be up to Jennifer for the grandkids. I'm going to tell you that. 3.5 hours of sleep a night. I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably about normal. I mean, I know you've texted me a couple of times when you've had to get up in the middle of the night. You're annoyed by it. That I don't think you should be doing that. But
always trying to get people in trouble on this show.
Yeah, I know.
Always. Sam, in all seriousness though, like how intrigued are you by the Sark offensive matchup versus the Randall Roberts defense? And while that's probably the headliner, then on the opposite side, that's intriguing too. How Grimes and Coach Kwiatkowski, go up against each other. Like the chess match part of it, how much does that intrigue you as an X's and O's guys in this game?
It's really intriguing because we've seen this play out at different stops with a very different talent levels. I mean, when Sark and Aranda went after each other, when Sark was at Alabama and Aranda was at LSU, Alabama had a full complement of offensive talent. I mean, you had first-round receivers everywhere. You had immaculate offensive line play. You had Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback. That's very different than a first-year part-time starting quarterback behind a line that really hadn't been dominant, with a truly dominant running back making them look better than they are. And then only one receiver on the field that can really run like those Alabama guys. But then on the other side, Aranda's got a pretty good defensive front, but the secondary is not covering as well as Derek Stingley or some of those other guys that they had at LSU. So how does each one adjust to their talent level and take away what the other one wants to do? And then on the other side, when Kwiatkowski was at Washington, he had great man-to-man cover guys going against some BYU receivers that really couldn't break it. And they honestly had better defensive linemen than BYU had offensive linemen. Now, I don't think that's going to be remotely the matchup. I think he likes what he has in his corners, but I don't think his safety and his nickel are up to what that Washington team had. Baylor's certainly got a lot more speed at receiver. And, I think Baylor's offensive line matches against that Texas defensive line much better than BYU and Washington did. So, how does that matchup play out differently? How does each side adjust to potentially a very different schematic matchup?
Sam, thank you. Appreciate it. We love the way you break it all down. Of course, once, twice, 3 times a lady. Sometimes in the premium section, Sam will get on there after the game and break things down, and also then get ready for the next opponent. Next week, of course, it will be TCU and Gary Patterson. Sam, thank you very much, and get some rest. Thank you very much, Sam Bradshaw, for that as well. All right, when we come back, Paul, break, segment, break, then Gable,
or break, and we're going right into Gable right here. So it's already built into the thing.
Okay. Hey, for some of you on the chat room, it's been really good. And I'm telling you right now, it's from all directions. Those who are a part of Chapter 1, those who have been at least picked up, named, and reported by us in Chapter 2. I continually get questions about Memphis and what's the delay, and I've kind of gone through that. I do know this, that I do think that Memphis's main core of the administration, I mean, I'm talking about, if you have an administration, you're talking about the board, you're talking about, of course, there's the president. I don't think all 100% are all in. And I think that's still something that the expansion committee, if you're the Big 12 and you want somebody to join you, you want someone to raise their hand and not only just verbally say something, but there's other things you have to basically, I guess, in an analogy, sign the line and say, hey, we're coming, we're ready to go. And there's still a little bit of holdup with that. That's something you can work through. They would still like to announce Chapter 2 by sometime at the end of November, but there could be a fly in the ointment with that. And if that happens, they'll just wait until they feel like they're going to do, whatever it is, 6 months or whatever it will be down the road. So that's just something for those who are kind of taught. But right now you can see that UCF and South Florida, they hate each other. Paul, you're a Florida guy. They hate each other. And there's a lot of chatter I see this with UCF nighttime is saying that U.S. or the South Florida doesn't belong. And guess what? There were some that didn't think UCF would belong. Yeah, and it's part of don't lose your passion. Don't lose your passion. It's just 2 of you or 5 of you. But at the same time, this conference needs everyone to understand that everybody has been out in the ocean without a life raft for a little bit of time.
Yeah, I also think that, and just from the UCF perspective, I kind of get it how you could spend the better part of the last decade or more building yourself to this point and doing all the different things that you've done, and then you get in, and then the next thing that happens is USF, who has not done the same amount of things, is also going to get in. I mean, they don't have their own stadium.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe get in. Like that maybe as a fan.
They screwed up when they had a highly ranked team 20 years ago and didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, as a fan, if you're a UCF fan and USF is your rival, and you finally get in the Power 5, you think, okay, finally we can leave these clowns behind, and then they might be coming in right after you, and they've not done the same amount of things that you've done to get to that point.
But they can start sometime.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, if I'm a fan, that's probably their narrative. But
that's been part of it. That's been part of it, and some of it is just that just the fan bases that don't like each other. They're both going to try to
wrong with that.
Go after each other because of right now UCF would have the edge in recruiting if they're a part of a Power 5 and their rival South Florida is not. So they will both, I think, end up being a part of the Big 12 at some point. There is always a fly in the ointment. I just posted something up in the chat room, and so you can read that if you want as well. All right, coming up next, Brad Gable, the former quarterback at Baylor, being inducted, he knows, into the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame, coming up tonight with the B Association, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem. It is a great time of the year for craft beer because you got all these fall beers in. Some of the Oktoberfest probably starting to rotate off as we now hurtle towards November. But not only that, you get the overlap of some of the fall beers and now some of the winter beers. Believe me, Steve Chapman will churn that roster of beers. As impressive as his roster of beers is his roster of high-end bourbons: Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, Bardstown. Man, Bardstown is some fancy, good high-end stuff. Like all of that is that they have there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Great customer service. A speedy drive-through window. They will, if they don't have what you need, they're going to point you in the right direction. They're going to tell you when they can get it. Anything in the world you can imagine, they have an expertise that is second to none at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're celebrating Ram Power Days, bringing the first truck brand to take the top spot overall in new vehicle initial quality by J.D. Power. With the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, you can get total values up to $6,000 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500. Come see why Ram wins great awards year after year. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Former Baylor quarterback Brad Gable, NFL quarterback Brad Gable, Cuero Gobbler Brad Gable joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. What does tonight mean to you?
Boy, I tell you, David, it means a lot. It's a tremendous honor. I'm just overwhelmed that the association and the B Association and the letter winners would select me. You know, there's been a ton of great football players, a ton of great athletes come through Baylor, and to be recognized for the Hall of Fame, it's really something I never ever would have dreamed of, especially when you look at, you know, what's happened here in the last 20, 25 years since I played. I mean, you know, throwing for 2,000, 2,500 yards in a season and 5,000 yards in a career, you know, they're doing that in one season. So, you know, it's nice to be recognized for the accomplishments that I had back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Well, yeah, and the game changes. It's like baseball hitters and home run eras and whatever else. Their batting averages are different. Their pitching. And in this case, obviously, there were some people throwing it around when you were there. But, I mean, as far as in college football, but it's a different game completely. Does it make it any more even more special that it's the weekend they're playing Texas?
Oh, it really does. It really does. It's a big game. It's a big weekend. And, you know, looking back at my career, we had a lot of success against the University of Texas when I was there, you know, culminating with my senior year, us beating them 53-6 in Austin, which was, we hadn't done it in a long time. And, you know, I think 3 of the 4 years that I played, we beat the Longhorns. So I'm kind of expecting another Baylor victory this weekend.
What are your thoughts about what you see from Gary Bohannon?
I like him. I mean, wow. I didn't know much about him. I'd heard great things. And I haven't seen him in person, but watching him on TV, just a lot of confidence back there. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Takes care of the football. Very accurate. Can move around. You know, kind of what you want as a quarterback today, and somebody that can
helped the offensive line out a little bit, but, protects the football and very accurate. I like him a lot. I think he's got a great career ahead of him.
When you were, I think it was your redshirt freshman year, wasn't that the year when you were all of a sudden, you were thrust into the starting quarterback job?
Yeah, David, that's right. I was a backup. I had redshirted. Cody Carlson was starting my redshirt year, and then coming back, I was a second-team guy behind a quarterback named Ed Lovell. Mm-hmm. And Ed had gotten hurt in the first quarter of the first game. And it was, opportunity presented itself. And, you don't have really time to think. You just go in there and play football. And I did, had a really good season that redshirt freshman year and made all Southwest Conference. And, just a lot of fun. You look back and you think, this is just going to happen every year. It obviously didn't go great every year like it did my redshirt freshman year, but we had success and spread the ball around. Had some success that year, and you just got to be ready. You just never know when you're going to get that opportunity, and thank goodness I was ready.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Be ready when your time is called, whatever your opportunity, because you might not have been, and you were, and you handled it well. What was it like? Yeah. When did you find out? Obviously, Lovell got hurt. You're talking about that. Was that you had the entire week to get ready, or?
No, he got hurt in the first. We played Louisiana Tech, and it was the first quarter of the first game. So, I was thrown in there. I didn't have a week to prepare. I mean, I had a week to be a backup. I mean, I was the number two guy. So you always got to prepare like you're going to be the starter. But really, it was just kind of, my first taste of action. It's not like you get any preseason games or any, you're going against your guys in 2-a-days. But it was my first taste of college football, and I had a great week that first week against Louisiana Tech, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Fast forward 5 years later in the NFL, with Philadelphia Eagles in 1991, I made the team as a third quarterback behind Randall Cunningham and Jim McMahon. And first quarter of the first game, we played the Green Bay Packers. Randall Cunningham blows his knee out. He's done for the season. Jim McMahon is number one. I go to number two, and it's like, okay, here we go. Fifth, sixth game of the year. Jim's out. I'm in. It's like, get ready, kid. You're playing again.
Yep. Yeah. Did that prepare you because of what you went through in college?
I think so. I definitely think so. As a backup guy, you just, it's almost a little harder than being the guy, because, when you're the guy, you're getting the reps all week long during practice. You get the timing down with your first unit. Being the backup, you don't take many reps, especially in the pros. So, it's a mental game. You have to study, prepare like you're going to be the starter. And, you just got to go in there and play and react. And really, my philosophy was, you don't have to win it, but just don't lose it, as that guy, just don't lose the game, just take care of the football, be accurate, make good decisions. And that was my philosophy.
You mentioned the passing yards, and Robert Griffin III exploded on the scene. Everyone knew about him, but then when he had the opportunity, he got healthy, and then that team in 2010 gets to a bowl game for the first time in forever. Then you have Bryce Petty. Of course, Nick Florence had a huge year, the year he started, his last year. Bryce Petty, Seth Russell, Jarrett Stidham, Charlie Brewer had a nice run, and then last year things kind of fell apart for the offense and him as well. What are your thoughts about the history at quarterback? And that's even not talking about the ones, as you mentioned, Cody Carlson and others. What about the tradition at quarterback at Baylor?
I mean, you could kind of say quarterback you. It's a lot of success there. I think it helps with recruiting. You can throw those names out when you're out there recruiting these high school seniors and saying, look what we've done with these quarterbacks. A lot of these guys weren't 5-star recruits coming out of high school. So, Baylor has developed them over the years, whether it was, Art Briles or Matt Rule or Coach Aranda now. I mean, they're doing the right thing to get these guys ready to play, and they're having success. And, they're going to the next level. So it helps recruiting, and recruiting is where the lifeblood is to help your team succeed and once you get into college.
How much did football, athletics, growing up a Cuero gobbler, and then, of course, having the experience we've mentioned at Baylor in the NFL, how much did that help you when it came to your business?
I tell you, it's I've got a 12-year-old son right now. He's playing baseball. He's just had his first year of flag football. And, I'm seeing in him what I felt and what I experienced growing up as well is how important athletics is. And people probably don't realize this if they haven't ever played. But, being part of a team, having success, growing, just all the opportunities that you get, the people you meet, the doors that are open, it's tremendous. I mean, you can't put a price on that. I mean, it's just the work ethic. Achieving a goal. Grant Taft was my coach, Cotton Davidson. These guys instilled upon me when I was at Baylor, what it meant to be a part of a team and be a leader and to, work hard and achieve those goals. And, you can't get that in every day in school.
Yep.
I had a tremendous education at Baylor University, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. But just combine that with being part of a team and being part of an athletic program with 50, 60 guys. It's just invaluable.
You, in your business, how did it or has it been affected by the last year? How did you guys, just like a game plan or having to change based on someone goes out, as you mentioned, you have to play quarterback. Did that kind of also help your business and others, you think, maneuver during the last 18 months or so?
I think so. It's just being able to adjust, being able to adapt. You don't know what's going to happen. It's like being ready, when your time's called. But, 2 years ago when we had the shutdown and the pandemic, we looked at our business, which is real estate, and we didn't know how things were going to be. We were like, we've got to figure out, are people going to be looking for real estate? Are they going to be buying property? Are they going to be selling property? We just didn't know, but we had a plan, and we saw that it changed the dynamics of our business to where people said, you know what, we're going to live life. We don't know what's going to happen. We want to move to the lake. We want to move to Horseshoe Bay. We want to play golf, and our business has just taken off. It's always been good, but it's been extremely good the last 2 years. And I think, like you said, being part of athletics and being part of a team and being able to adapt and adjust and having a game plan going forward, it's provided success.
You played at Cuero, and I know you were on those teams in the mid-'80s that had to bump into those East Texas Giants, the Juggernaut in Dangerfield. I covered that game at Floyd Casey. The next year, I covered them playing Jefferson at, I think, Kyle Field, and they were knocking on the door. Eventually, they got it in '87. It was right a year or two after you left. But Cuero's had a history. They won it a couple of 2018 with Jordan Whittington, who's so good at Texas, although he has his issues with his injuries. What about the history of being a Cuero gobbler? You know what? If I could, I'd love to live down there and have my son experience that. Tradition, just growing up as a kid, seeing the success, hearing about it, being involved in it then, and as I got older, and then playing and having that success. The town, it just rallies around and supports the kids there in the community, and not just football, but all sports. But that's it. They talk about the 12th man, and at A&M and Kyle Field and in Seattle at the Seahawks. I mean, Cuero's got that 12th man because, you're never out of it. You always believe because of the tradition and the history behind it. And, it's fabulous to have that. It's great to be a part of that. And I still follow the Gobblers. My parents still live there. I've got relatives that play there, coach there, and they're having success again this year. They're good. I think they'll always stay good because there's a good nucleus of
of families there that have carried the tradition on.
Yeah, they have. One more thing, and for those who don't know, when you were in the NFL, you mentioned playing. We mentioned starting off with Philadelphia and what you did with Cunningham and then McMahon getting injured. But you were with Cleveland for a guy named Bill Belichick, who eventually won like 15 Super Bowls. Obviously, he was a Parcells coaching tree guy. Did you know then? There's no one that could have expected him to win this much, and I know he's kind of going through a renovation, a rebuilding. Did you know then he was going to be that kind of coach?
I knew he was special. You know, I was a young guy. Obviously, he was a young head coach, but I could see that what he had and what he was having us do at the time, that this guy was so committed. He was so focused on football and his job. And he had us so prepared. You know, I was there 3 years with him and, you know, didn't play a lot. I saw time in the preseason and got in some games for mop-up duty in those 3 years. But, you know, he liked me because I was the guy that, and you've heard him say it, I just did my job.
Yep.
You know, I took care of my business. I was prepared to play. He didn't have to worry about me. He knew that if he could call upon me, I'd be ready. And, you know, that's how I was able to be there 3 years. It's just because I did my job. And that's what he taught us to do. He taught us to work hard, be committed, and not make mistakes. And, you know, that simple formula has obviously carried him over to having the success he has. And also it helps to have a guy named Tom Brady. Now,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But Bill was doing things back then that we were looking at going, wow, you know, it was just amazing how the things that we were doing that week of practice to prepare for those games, nobody else was doing. You know, guys were like, this is very interesting stuff. And, you know, it's carried over 15, 20 years and he's still probably doing them. And he's a forward thinker. He's doing things now, I'm sure, that nobody else is doing. And just a guy that loves football, loves to compete, loves to win. And there's a reason for his success.
You will be inducted into the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame. You know that. You've known that since the call from Walter. We discussed that at the start, what it means. Have you thought what you're going to say? Are you going to be able to keep your composure like some blitzing linebackers coming right at you?
Oh, well, I sure hope so. You know, it's tough to, you know, because, you know, all the memories and all the emotions that you go through and, you know, all the coaches that you had and all the teammates. You know, I'm just one guy that's part of a team that, you know, that I'm getting recognized for all of their accomplishments. And, you know, that's what's tough is, you know, I'm not a guy that says, hey, it's all about me. I'm a team guy. And so me, you know, taking credit for what all the guys did in my 4 years of playing, you know, that's special. And, you know, I obviously having your parents there and your high school coach and friends and supporters that have helped me over the years. It's a tremendous thing, and I'm excited about it. I'm ready for it, and as I said, I'm very appreciative.
Congratulations, Brad. Great talking to you again.
All right, David. Thank you.
Brad Gable, he'll be a part of that Hall of Fame B Association ceremony tonight. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Right around the corner to wrap up today and the week. Again, it's Paul Catalina's Top 5. Tomorrow, our pregame, Texas and Baylor. We'll be in studio at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, leading you up until kickoff at just after 11 o'clock. All right, Waco Custom Marketplace, if you're on your way home, and you have 15 minutes or so before they close their doors at 425 Lake Air Drive, but let's say there's just one thing you forgot that you want for the early part of tailgating. Maybe you're just going to have breakfast tacos or maybe sausage with tortilla or something, but you forgot something. They're open until 6, but they're open again tomorrow, early enough to where you can get there if you need something for your tailgate, and especially if you need something tomorrow night, whatever you want for dinner Saturday and or Sunday or early next week. And the specials they have, the New York strip steaks, $7.99 a pound for select T-bone steaks, $7.99, porterhouse steaks, $8.25, and then bacon ends and pieces for $2.99 a pound. Fresh Gulf shrimp, $13.99 a pound. The tiger shrimp, those are some dudes now, put those on the grill. They're delicious. 8 to 12 pounds, or 8 to 12 at a pound, $13.99 a pound. So that's what the weekly specials are through tonight in about 10 or 15 minutes and throughout the day again tomorrow. And then they have the non-perishable, the canned goods, relishes and pickles and much, much more on sale right now. A lot of those at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. They have a butcher shop and a bakery, fresh baked bread and fresh baked kolaches every morning. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. When you contact people about insurance, and people are hit up with it all the time, what do you tell them? What do you say? I know you say you educate, but Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is obviously successful for a lot of different reasons.
Right.
And has hundreds of thousands.
It's personal service. Okay. It's one-on-one service. Just yesterday, went to a client's house, met with the couple, went over all the coverages, and they said, wow, we've, never had this before. We've had this different insurance and that different insurance, but we've never had somebody actually come to the house and go over everything with us. And wow, we really appreciate that, especially this day and time where it's just a click of a button and you really don't know who you're dealing with. It's a different person you call every time you call that 800 number. You don't know who your agent is. Now they have a face with the name, and it's more personal service.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Welcome back into Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for the Top 5 at 5:55. And yesterday we were in the room and Jack was talking about something he was doing, and he said this random Adam Sandler movie. And had he picked one of the more recent ones, Craig, I could have let it stand and not to done an Adam Sandler top 5 just to show Jack the many diverse roles of one of America's finest actors. But he picked on the Waterboy, and I can't stand for that disrespect.
Well, my whole knowledge of Adam Sandler ends after about 1997. So yeah, I liked The Waterboy. I didn't watch the Jules movie or whatever that was so intense, and I haven't watched much anything else that he's done in the last 15 years. But
this list will still probably land on you, save for 2 of them, but you'll get the jokes. Smokey, I'm not sure about you. We'll see.
What do you think? Scale of 1 to 10.
0.
0, but you will see. I don't know. You might have picked some of this up over the years. But
he wasn't in a World War II movie, so you probably haven't seen it.
All right.
He hasn't done one yet. Number 5, Ed Orgeron is Bobby Boucher. And this one really needs no explanation.
Yeah.
From The Waterboy, Ed Orgeron talking,
Actually, the assistant would have been more of an Orgeron. What's his name?
Blake Clark in real life, but whatever.
He had more. He's more the one that reminds me of sounding like Orgeron. But yeah, Bobby Boucher had a little bit of that as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. Number 4, Gary Patterson is Happy Gilmore, an out-and-out rageaholic who will fly off the handle and yell out, "You're gonna die, clown!" And if you could picture a college football coach getting in a fight with Bob Barker, it would definitely be Gary Patterson.
Yeah, it would. It would be Gary Patterson. I loved, Happy Gilmore. I haven't seen it in a really long time, but definitely loved it when I was younger. And I could see Gary Patterson pulling a fight like that.
Yeah. Number 3, Urban Meyer is Uncut Gems Adam Sandler. And I will say this because Adam Sandler, you haven't seen the movie. Smokey, I'm sure you haven't seen the movie.
Nope.
It is a very interesting movie. It is go from the first frame to the very last frame. And Adam Sandler is the sleaziest dude in Uncut Gems in every sense of the word. And every step along the way, he's kind of like one step ahead of total tragedy until the end of the movie. But that's kind of like when I think of if there's an Adam Sandler character that Urban Meyer fits in, it is Uncut Gems Adam Sandler, where he is just so sleazy and ridiculously unlikable in that movie.
Yeah, that's those are two phrases that definitely fit Urban Meyer: ridiculously sleazy and unlikable. I agree with that absolutely. I haven't seen that movie. I've read some people's takes that it's just like so intense that if you like that kind of thing, it's great. If not,
you're either gonna be like me and really like it, or you're just gonna hate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like it's anxiety ridden.
Yeah. I don't know if I've been in the anxiety free space to sit down and watch it just yet. It's in my little whatever you call it, the list thing though.
Yeah. You'll find it interesting though, Craig. You're a high intellectual kind of person, so you'll like it. But number 2, Clay Helton is Big Daddy Adam Sandler. In the movie Big Daddy, Adam Sandler winds up with a kid.
Is Happy Gilmore a hockey guy?
It played golf. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hockey guy who played golf.
Yeah.
So he used a stick.
Yeah.
All right.
But in Big Daddy, a little boy shows up on Adam Sandler's door, and he decides to take him in. By the end of the movie, he realizes he's not really fit to take care of this little boy, and his dad, who winds up being Adam Sandler's friend, played by Jon Stewart in the movie, takes custody of the kid and helps Adam Sandler grow up. Much like Clay Helton, who was gifted the USC program on his doorstep. Yeah. And then he and USC realized earlier this year that he's not the guy who needs to be the guy raising this program.
Yeah. Didn't it turn spoilers from 1998 or whatever? Yeah. Wasn't it Jon Stewart's kid in the end?
Yeah, it was Jon Stewart's kid. Yeah.
But I don't know who's going to play Jon Stewart in this movie. Who is the USC James Franklin, I guess. Yeah. Maybe James Franklin plays Jon Stewart, but yeah, it definitely belongs in someone else's hands. In this case, Clay Helton was Adam Sandler. Yeah.
Is that it?
No, we got one more.
Okay.
All
right.
I know you feel left out. I know you feel left out.
In all those 400-plus shows have I ever felt more left out in a segment. Mentally, there have been a few, but this is across the board.
Yeah. And number one, Tom Herman is Grown Ups Adam Sandler, a movie with a fantastic cast that should have been way better than it was, but ultimately just wasn't that good and average at best, even in its high points.
Yeah, when you got Rock and Spade and all those guys getting together, it makes me think of like my glory years, like mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Like that's my wheelhouse. And so that SNL crew or the alums from back then, you get all those guys together. I'm thinking this would be the greatest movie ever, and not so much. A lot of talent, but not execution, if you will. Yeah.
So that's why Tom Herman is Grown Ups Adam Sandler. And look, if you have not seen Uncut Gems, Smokey, you might even like Uncut Gems, but it's really intense. It's
give it a whirl.
Kevin Garnett's in it and plays himself. Not bad.
I've never been big with him.
Adam Sandler.
I mean, he's a fantastic.
But it's not his typical movie. And he's actually, Spanglish was a good movie, and he's got like dramatic roles. He actually does pretty well with those.
Funny People's my favorite one, but
I don't even know what that's about.
Eminem makes a cameo.
Okay.
Yeah, Eminem makes a hilarious
was he a football player once or something?
He did a
prison.
He's in The Longest Yard
remake of The Longest Yard.
Waterboy.
Okay, there you go.
Now, have you seen the remake of The Longest Yard, or have you seen the original Longest Yard?
Yeah, that's where I remembered him as a football
with
player.
Bertrand Leon Reynolds.
Yeah,
who's in both of them? But
I do remember those. Yeah, I'm not the biggest movie buff. I got to pick and choose, and I haven't been to a movie theater, not because of COVID. It's been a while. When we used to go to Cowboys camp or a Super Bowl, on occasion we'd go check out a local theater, like on a Saturday or whenever it was when we had a little bit of a day. Okay, now.
Well, we got a new theater in Waco.
Yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
It's right over there.
Over by 35.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, right over here somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to the hundreds of you that have been a part of the chat room today. Yes, all of you. Thanks to the text line. Also, appreciate Hayden Bumpus helping us get moving. And then also thanks to Armstrong Sims back at the mothership as well. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak. We'll be back in an hour. 7 o'clock pregame, 106.7 FM and Sikkim 365 Radio, Midway and Cedar Hill.
Pregame early tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 9 o'clock, we'll do this game, go home, get a little sleep, and get up and do the pregame and then cover Baylor, Texas. Ought to be an interesting day at McLean Stadium. I'm David Smoak. See you in a little bit. Good night for now, though, on 365 Sports.